their Ember Vault that they did. I
Yeah, yeah.
loved that. I
Yeah,
loved that.
yeah. Like obviously, truth be told, I don't think I've watched a full like a full bat rep from those guys in like a year solid, maybe longer. But I'll watch the cold open, and then like I'll clip through the bat rep to see who won
Hmm.
basically,
Yeah.
and that's like how I consume their stuff. But like it's apparent, like I mean obviously when like you first get into Warhammer, like you just want all of the content all the time,
Yes. Yeah. Give
especially
me
bat
all of
reps.
it.
You want to know how to play the game, like you want to see people playing the game. Like I mean that there's still something that's just resonant about that. The best way to get into Warhammer is to watch Warhammer get played.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, part of it too is that, if you're new, you're starting with great armies. Or if you can't settle on something and you're constantly changing it up or whatever, it's like all you're playing with is just cold plastic. But seeing battle reports and see how people use them and see how they paint them and see what is a whole Skaven force that I'll never ever own and complete on my own, but
Right.
what does that look like on a table?
Mm-hmm.
Like what, it's cool to see how it all goes together. And so, watching what they do and watching what people do with that type of stuff I think is a big drive, especially at the beginning, but kind of throughout. If you have a lack of motivation, just being able to throw something on and kind of see what people are doing lately
It
and
helps
whatnot.
like that with that like sort of like a communal accountability, right? Like when you see like other folks finishing their army, so you want to finish your army, you see what a completed Skaven army. Maybe even like you're never gonna own the Skaven army, but you're like, man, my my skeletons would look super cool, like if I just finished the paint scheme and then I fight those Skaven, like, and it's
Yeah.
that sort of like it's kind of like you have to like motivate yourself from all angles, and
Hmm.
I'm sure we'll go into it a little bit later, but with ADHD, recently diagnosed myself. Like I was recently diagnosed December 28th. I won't ever forget the date. Even though like time blindness is also part of the ADHD package.
Say I forgot mine. So
But I'll always remember that date. External positive motivation is like virtually the only thing that works with ADHD. Like we're great under like a time constraint and like
yes.
procrastination. Like if the assignment is due tomorrow, I will suddenly have like 4,000 words done, but like
Yeah.
I won't do a single thing up until that and so it's like a part of that. But like with the AOS community, that positive external motivation kind of comes from like various like community content creators or like the Twitter feed, coming on shows like this, talking to your homies, like hanging out and like doing hobby hangouts and discords like that. My brain needs that crap, like, or I
Yeah.
just
Well,
like, yeah, go ahead.
that's why I love Twitter. Like I mean, that's how I came across you. That's how I've met a lot of people. Um, the Season of War guys, just constantly seeing stuff that people are putting out. Whether it's some people hate work in progress shots. It's like, man, I can only look at so many half painted models, but for me, it's like I like seeing other people's process, and
Same, same.
you get that motivation where it's like, okay, maybe I should go slap some paint on my night haunt, because this is looking really good what I'm seeing from this guy, or whatever. Like I think that social media you can just sit and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and whatever, but it's such a good resource to find that motivation for yourself from everybody else, and I agree, I I need it too.
Yeah, yeah. Twitter's the double edged sword, but it is the I don't know what the future holds for Twitter.
Sure.
The last show I was talking about it, I got depressed because I heard some stuff. I'm like, no, but ignoring that, I'm just going to go into my own little world. I'm going to forget that
Sure.
reality exists outside it for a moment. But as it stands right now, Twitter is like the perfect like little dopamine box for my ADHD brain. It's just this like,
Mhm.
it's perfect. Even the drama that like crops up, provided it doesn't like go like super personal and like super tragic, but like even like the occasional drama, like like the chess clocks banter came back out again, and I'm like, oh,
Oh
grab
man.
my popcorn. I'm just sitting there like eating popcorn and just like loving my feed.
Yeah, I don't add to a lot of that stuff. Like I'll kind of sit and just like watch, like, oh, okay, there's certain people you watch, you like, this guy's gonna pop up some point in here, like I know it for sure. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a popcorn drama person too, but not really, not contributing. Like I'm not knowledgeable enough. It's like after the chess clock thing came up, I hit my buddy up and I was like, "Do you want to try the chess clock? Like, I'm really curious to see." It was awful. Like, we're we're both slow. Like, I think as we use it a couple more times, it would feel more comfortable. But it's like I don't really know the etiquette behind it. It's like, okay, I cast a spell, and then if you're deciding if you want to unbind it, and you're sitting there for 2 minutes trying to decide, do I click it over to you? Like,
Yeah.
how do you? Yeah, I don't know all that
I mean,
stuff,
that's
but
that's that's the thing about. Oh my god, I can't believe we're doing chess clock take. I can't believe I'm
we're
about to
like
do
weeks
chess
late
clock
now.
take.
Yeah, this is great.
No, yeah, and like they're probably on to like I think the discourse has moved on to like double turns now. Like I'm sure it's on to the next whatever that next
Oh, yeah,
hot
it's
button issue,
cyclical.
the
Yeah.
next wedge issue of our community is up. No, with chess clocks, the thing is like, um, the game as it stands, they're not impossible to implement, but people need to think about it more three dimensionally. Like chess clock. I know they're used in Warhammer Hordes, but even Warhammer Hordes is a different game. It's got like a fail state. Warhammer Hordes has a fail state in its game. You know, in that like you snipe the general, it's over. Like
Oh, okay.
we don't have that in our game. You have to think more three dimensionally.
Yeah, you can get down to one model
When
left and you're
when
still like,
Yeah, when you're talking chess clocks and AOS, I'm not saying like chess clocks good bad. I'm saying that like the discourse on Twitter, the place where nuance goes to die is the worst place to have the discussion. So in the meantime, I'm just gonna eat my popcorn. But speaking of popping, I see Chat Gang is popping off here. We got Tomb King Tristan, aka Tomb Dad, showing up. Ulf Paints, or the Mountain Who Paints, and Domir, all showing up, all having their banter going on. The show within the show. So welcome to RantCast. I believe this is 130. I am the magical Mr. Mephisto, the most dangerous man in Age of Sigmar. I am joined tonight by Jason Noack. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. This is going to be another one of those quintessential AOS RantCast episodes. But how's it going, Jason?
I'm doing fantastic. It's awesome to be here. Doing great.
Yeah, you're basically an e-celebrity now. This is your second not just like second time on like one podcast. You've hit two podcasts now. Next it's Warhammer Weekly. Like,
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty
Yep.
much the kingmaker. I'm the golden trampoline. People come on my show and then like Vince watches it and then he's like, I should get that guest on.
You're
Brendan,
gonna see me everywhere. Yeah.
pretty soon, yeah. And then
You know,
go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say that you show up on one podcast, it's a fluke, but the second time, it's like there's a reason.
Yeah, there's something there.
You're
There's
there.
something there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then just all I ask is like when you've moved on to like Party at the All Points or one of these like big deal podcasts, you just remember me a little bit. Like not about
Hey.
you don't have to like say, hey, I remember Mephisto. You don't even have to like honk the show. You just like one night like alone when you're like falling asleep. You put your kids to bed and you're just like, I remember that Mephisto. That's all I ask.
I'm tired, but thinking about meth right now. Yeah. Actually, speaking about Party at the All Points, Dayton was actually at our tournament a couple weeks ago. I know Dayton. We ran into each other a couple times, so yeah.
Yeah, they're it's Rage of Sigmar, Party at the All Points and Rantcast are the most like sort of
Holy
off
Trinity.
the rails podcasts in our community. Like
Yeah.
I see Party at the All Points, because Tristan's a professional, they pretend to have a real topic and like they haven't dropped the guys yet. And I figured another like 50 episodes they'll finally drop the guys and they'll just be Rantcast 2. It's okay. Tristan, you don't have to like pretend your show's about AOS anymore. We've all seen through it. Just liberate yourself, my friend. Just make a show about the adjacent topics.
It's the Inside Canada podcast.
Inside Canada. That's right. Oh man, every time Bud goes into like goes like full Canada, like I'm in tears every single time. Every time. Hotspur dropping 1,000 RDP to remind everyone that Chat Gang ain't none to mess with, and Notorious dropping 150 biddies. Thank you so much for the biddies. Is Dayton okay? he is the most okay. He's Dayton Obrey.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
The most okay.
yeah, the most okay. Troll the chess clock argument community by switching a clock back and forth during an interview. What? Oh, like I'm like that's some fucking Inception like Andy Kaufman level trolling. That's
You'd
like
have to do it at 3 hours too, so you both get an hour and a half. It's like, man, you're winding down. You better give it back to me.
see, are chess clocks ableist? You want a hot take? Like I time blindness, ADHD, my ability to get distracted and stuff like that, even on medication, is really high. Um, have we talked about the implications for the neurodivergent community when it comes to chess clocks? Or is it some ableist
Forgetting it's
garbage
even there.
propaganda that's trying to like discriminate against me?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's like I can either focus on the game I'm playing or the chess clock, but I can't decipher between the two. Then I get paralyzed by the fact that I can't. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I've already hyper fixated on the like sick moves I'm going to do in 2 turns to like win the game. I might not necessarily have incorporated the chess clock even into like my that tunnel vision that I get at the table.
Yeah, unless you probably just have to have it uh like strung down like over the middle of the table, so it's you're always aware. It's like right there,
That's
you
right.
know.
That's right.
Yeah, I like that.
um, yeah, but like Domir says, Warmer Hordes has chess clock and taking the king piece, and I think that's a very important distinction when people make the Warmer Hordes to AOS comparison that is often left out of those comparisons.
Sure.
It's again this isn't thing good, thing bad, yes or no. I mean, you can have your opinion. Mine is I'm not weighing into the waters of an opinion because I will like get flamed off the internet by having an opinion from one side or the other. And
You should restart the fire.
I just don't care enough to do anything beyond make flippant jokes about ableism,
Yeah.
and troll people. But it's you got if you're going to like debate it, you got to do it in good faith, and you have to make like honest comparisons. And one thing you need to understand is like the fail state of Warma Hordes, making it a very different game from AOS. So it
Yeah.
has,
No, I
yeah,
think that's fair. It's just like as in chess, take the king and checkmate and you're done. It's like, okay, that's the goal I'm playing to,
mm-hmm,
rather these ambiguous, like, well, I could drag it out to round 5 and I can still get a battle tactic with my 3 models I've got left on the table and da
mm-hmm,
da 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 da. There's really no, even if they table you,
yeah.
you still have however many rounds are left for the other person to keep doing their thing. So it's like you said, it's like apples and oranges, but still trying to use the same comparison.
Yeah, yeah, and you're not like yeah. There's a lot more interactions going on on an AOS table than when are you switching the clock to use your spell example from earlier? Like, is it when I decide to unbind? Is it you know um anytime you pick up dice? Like there's etiquette. It's not insurmountable. It's questions we need to answer before we implement them. Like
Yeah, I think that makes sense because it's like, the one time I tried it, it was kind of that same concept. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna use this for my heroic action. I have to wait for you to decide what you're going to do until I can proceed with my turn. But if you sit there and waffle for a minute or 5 minutes, or we start talking about something completely different, and it's like, oh shit, I just wasted 10 minutes on my
what
chess clock,
when I'm going to buy beer, do we turn the chess clock on the side or like is that like on my
Yeah,
turn?
pause it. Yeah, exactly. Because it's like if you're at a tournament, 3 hours is 3 hours. It's like, okay, like my first tournament I went to, my very first opponent I played,
do
we
you do
both
you remember what the tournament was? The first tournament?
uh it did it was like
One dayer, yeah.
yeah, it was a 1 day like
Yeah, no, it's
game
all
or
right.
save in April, whatever.
Yeah.
But it was like we both played our round 1, and then we went into round 2, and I won priority, and the guy's like, I gotta use the bathroom. I'll be right back. And I'm like, okay. And then I sat there for like 25 minutes, just like hanging out. It's like the round is the round, like, okay, so I can't really do anything till he gets back. So it's just like, if you're
Well,
playing at home, that's fine. But how do you do a chess clock for that?
yeah, well, pro tip, obviously it's the P breaks their time on the chess clock.
Yeah.
But pro tip, it's movement phase. Take your breaks during the movement phase, BB.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing against a Beast Claw Raiders player, and then take them during the charge phase. And just
Sure. Yeah.
like have someone or like watch their dice
Keep
for the
track of
charge
your
rolls.
mortals.
Make
Yeah.
sure they're being
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're playing like, like they say that this general's handbook is going to be like battle line or troop focus,
Mm-hmm.
So my theory is that you'll see a lot more of like the Flesh Eater Court, Skaven, Beasts of Chaos, like the Horde armies come back. So people are really going to have that movement phase. Like I'll see you in like 15 minutes, man. I got to hit the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
You'll still be moving when I get back. So that is a pro tip. I think that's good.
Yeah, pro tip. There you go, chat gang. Look, you learned something today. No, my prediction for the GHB is have they confirmed Gloomspite gets an ogres yet, or is it still rumors?
I think it's rumors, but
All right. So
I
it's a
could be
rumor.
wrong.
If Gloomspite gets is one of the destruction tomes, it won't be bad this time. That's my bold prediction. Um, and
I think you're right.
and I know that Night Haunt is already looking real good. So if they are getting that battle line boost, which is an army with, quite frankly, a saturation of good battle line, you're gonna see those armies kind of like in a decent position.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. That's kind of crossed my brain a little bit thinking about that.
I think
Get,
it's Gits and Ogres, Tomb King, Tomb Dad.
See, I've seen the Sons of Bahamut though. I've seen that recently where people are saying like that's what they think the second one might be. I think Gits is pretty much the common consensus is like it's got to be
It's got to be
Gits.
Gits, yeah.
And then then what? But because Ogres is an older tome than Sons is, right? But I feel like people are probably wanting them reworked with the way that the game is kind of changing and stuff around. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. Taking breaks during the opponent's movement phase means you can't win the game with redeploy shenanigans, though.
yeah, that cheeky redeploy, man.
Oh, man. See, they add... I finally figured out why 3.0 hasn't quite jived with me the way... I thought it was because the edition feels like it's like half-baked, that it has a lot of really good ideas that need to go back in the oven. But no, that's it right there. I don't have a good decisive moment to go buy a beer for my opponent. That's why 3.0 and I haven't been.
There you go.
So when you greet Dayton, is it Dayton? Oh hey, thank you, chat gang. Thank you so much for that, Domir.
Yeah, followed by a really long, like overly long hug, I think is probably the best way to greet Dayton.
Mm-hmm.
Just, oh, what a guy. I love Dayton.
Yeah. Man, see, chess clocks will just always bring out someone's opinion. It just always does.
Yeah.
You can't say without it. All right, so yeah, I just kind of want to get us back off of the chess clock debacle that no side will ever win and no good ever comes from.
However you feel about it, it's valid.
It's fine. No, y'all folks have their opinions. You can disagree and still respect people, except for on Twitter, where it's like West Side Story and just like snapping at each other and pulling out knives and getting ready to dance fight. Like it's, but in reality, people are complex and complicated and have varied opinions and emotions and so on and so forth, and it's okay for everyone to have that stuff.
Yeah.
No, you actually had kind of mentioned kind of in the before we went live there that you recently got into Age of Sigmar and kind of mentioned in private conversation that it was like the thing that kind of pulled you out of World of Warcraft.
Oh man.
So I think there's a small story there if you don't mind sort of giving the synopsis or the spark notes. Like, how'd you get into Age of Sigmar? And
sure.
I feel like I've talked to a lot of people who have been like, the most people I tend to talk to are like, I played Warhammer Fantasy Battles or 40K. I took a break, then I started playing, Warhammer. That's like the dominant story. So
yeah, I mean, like for me, it was 40K back in high school. So I'm 39, so high school was obviously a while ago. And
you are a beautiful man for 39, by the way. I don't know if anyone's ever told you. You've got this like cleft chin. Like I'm a person who looks young. You look younger than me, and you're older than
Oh,
me. So like,
well, I got all this gray hair though. It's like
it
all
just makes
over.
you look like Superman, like like
Oh,
like
thanks.
regal Clark
I think
Kent.
I got my glasses here too. I'll
Don't
take
do it.
those.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
All the
so
ladies are like, oh, the horn rims.
that's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I played 40K in high school, but it was like on my buddy's floor with like 30 models tops,
Yeah.
metal, unpainted, And then after high school, that kind of just went by the wayside, like everyone doing their things and stuff. And then so Age of Sigmar for me came back kind of the same. It's the same actually group of friends. One of my buddies came back from the Navy, and um, he I just hadn't seen him in almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And he was just like, hey, do you still play Warhammer? And I was like, no, man, that was forever ago. And I was like, do you? And he's like, well, I have a bunch of stuff. He's like, we should play sometime. And so he brought over, Space Marines and some orcs, and we like pulled some old rules out and just played a game. And it was like instantly the fire was relit, like
Mm-hmm.
it kind of just like hiding underneath the surface all those years, just kind of waiting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did 40K for a little bit. I love science fiction, but it's always been fantasy type stuff, magic, swords, wizards, elves, and dragons. Like,
Yeah.
always loved it so much more. And so one of my other friends, kind of that same friend group, he was like, have you tried Age of Sigmar? And I was like, nah, I'm a 40K guy. And then it's like, so hyperfixation stuff, right? So sometimes all it takes is a seed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little, you just plant it. Cause then I'm like, I haven't really looked into it. I guess I don't know what it's about. And then I started looking into it, and then I'm like, how do I get a cheap force? And then it was like one thing led to another. And like 3 days later, I'm like, hey, I just bought a box set. And my buddy's like, hey, funny enough, I did too. And so it was just like, then it just kept rolling, and it was like, my first army was Stormcast, and I think I put like 1,000 points together, and it was just enough to kind of wet my whistle, where it's like, okay, well, this is cool, but what else is there? There's ogres. I've always wanted to do ogres. There's this, there's that, there's Khorne, there's Skaven, there's
Mm-hmm.
boom, 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 dwarves on boats. Like, just there's always something next that I wanted to look at or try, but it didn't take much to get me back into it. But it came at a right time, you said, like, because I'd played World of Warcraft forever, like probably like 13 years or 14 years, like super big into raiding. Like I had, when I met my wife, like I was at the point with like dating where I'm like, hey, you're cool and all, but like, just so you know, I've got Tuesday and Thursday nights from 9 to midnight where I play World of Warcraft and I raid with my buddies. And like, that's just, it happens. Like that's my schedule. And she was somehow fine with it. And, so
Then you married her because she understood, and that was it.
yeah.
So yeah. No.
Yep. And then, yep. So it was nice to, the game got to a point where I didn't really enjoy it as much. And it led into like, I've got all this free time. Like, now I can paint. And then it was like, I got really into Warhammer, where like all of a sudden I didn't care about this game I played for 12 years, because Warhammer to me was so much cooler, because not only could I get together with you face to face and play and have a good time, but I could also do something creative, which I really like that aspect of it as well.
Right.
Painting and coming up with my own armies and stuff. And so it was like, it hit this, like this,
It's like a sweet spot, right? Like a.
yeah, that I didn't even know that I was missing or that I wanted. And, but once I found it, I was like, this is it. Like, I'll probably play Warhammer till I'm too old to paint, like it's just how it is. So it hit this really good dwarves on boats.
No.
I just saw that. That's awesome.
Yeah, checking the show with the show. You show up to have my voice in the background and whomever the guest is in the background. You stay for the chat gang and what's going
That's
on
right.
there. Yeah. No, it's interesting. So I was a progression raider for a while, and I was on the unhealthy side, because that, I don't know if that was in the cold open or if we talked about it, recently diagnosed with ADHD, and doing this thing where like my whole life I've had the like clear symptoms of it, like the like clearly been, you know, so ADHD. And I didn't really like grow up with parents and anyone really paying attention to me. I was what's called twice exceptional, so I was like academically gifted, so I could just like fuck around, ace everything without ever trying. So like the mind prison of school didn't really affect me until college. Um, and so like I just all these things, and I hit my 30 somethings, and like now all these like unmitigated things are just like getting in the way of everything in my life constantly. This fucking show's called RantCast because I talk too much.
It's appropriate.
Like it's all these things that were just there. And one of them was like World of Warcraft was like the exact mind prison my ADHD needed, like that
Oh yeah.
hyperfixation, that like
Oh yeah.
the ability to just go into a dopamine like digital like landscape and just like push button receive bacon constantly.
Kill a boss, getting loot.
Oh yeah, just
Yeah.
like and
Yep.
just like the dopamine hits and like that focusing on like being not just like a good tank, being the best tank on the server. And then when I'm like the best tank on that server and the raids are holding me back, um, looking over at like the highest ranked guild in the world I think I can get into with my gear and transferring servers and like
Just seeing what you can do. Yeah.
and like leaving my fucking RL friends behind to go on a more advanced server because they finally opened up an off tank spot.
Yeah.
Like it was, like I said, I was on the unhealthy side of World of Warcraft. I didn't set healthy boundaries with my relationships and stuff like that. It was like if I wasn't progression rating, I was helping gear somebody to get them ready for a raid. I was training an off tank because like we knew that this week. No, we're this BT opens, like this week, we're going in there and we need another tank for this fight. Like I've been reading the forum, like it took over my life, and
Oh yeah. Yep. Yep. I definitely feel it. I was a raid leader for a long time, so it's like all the recruiting and all of the preparation and having to like go over logs and go over and over and over, and then on top of it, so I was the
actually
opposite
see
of the
who the fuck is standing in
hyperfixation.
the goddamn fire. You
Oh
fucking
my gosh,
liars. You fucking
dude.
liars. I'm looking at the fucking combat log and I can see.
Having to have a
Sorry.
conversation with like a 45-year-old man where I'm like, like half their age, and I'm like, hey, so your performance isn't up to what it should be because your damage is this, and you keep. It's like I'm not being paid to do this. Working like 20 extra hours a week on raids, and then I had the Altaholic. Like that was my clear cut sign where it's like I couldn't just every single tier was something different. I couldn't stay on one class. It's like my free time was when I wasn't doing all that other stuff was like I'm leveling something, I'm gearing something. Ooh, I like this. This is fun. This is shiny. Like this is my main next season, and people are like, "You've got to be kidding me!" Like people knew. Like it stopped being like an uncommon occurrence. Like they just knew. Like, what are you playing next month? I'm like, probably this, and they're like, yeah, go figure. Yeah. So, yep.
It's weird because I know that neurodivergence is overrepresented in nerd spheres. Like in terms of like American statistics, we know it's about 25% of people are like neurodivergent. Um, it's about 1 in 3 in like video games and tabletop gaming. So like a little bit higher. So about 1 in 3, right? So it goes from 1 in 4 to 1 in 3 in nerd spheres. Um, and it's because the very nature of like chasing the dopamine for the
Mm-hmm.
ADHD brain versus like someone who's like on the autism spectrum where they need that like box of interaction, that framework
Sure.
for social interaction. So like it appeals to like two types of the neurodivergent sort of spheres because it's a big sphere of neurodivergence.
Yeah.
And I'm sure those are the only two I'm like directly familiar with, and I'm sure like everyone who's neurodivergent has some thing that just is so easy to latch onto uh,
Yeah.
in gaming, right? That just it you talked about like Alt-itis. You see it with like Now, I'm not saying everybody who constantly has trouble finding an army or like flips armies or does like the dog from 2 plus tough thing it has ADHD, but
Sure.
that's you have like it's not you have a symptom of ADHD. Like it's several symptoms and you have all of them all the time, right?
Well, what's funny is that I told this lady at work. I have pretty open with this type of stuff. Like it's not something that bothers me to talk about. And when I told this lady that I was worked very closely with and knew very well, I was like, so I actually just found out that I was diagnosed with ADHD, and she goes, uh, duh. She's like, did you not know that? And I'm like, no. She goes, oh, I thought you knew that. And I was like, no, but I mean, obviously, people could see
Yeah,
the signs, but it's like I didn't recognize it myself, being in it. So
well, I mean, you have that like when I was talking to Eve Crevauchet from Take This, the charity organization I'll be
Mhm.
doing my mental health fundraiser for July 30th and July 31st. Everybody, we've got 3 fully painted armies to give away. Like over, I'm gonna get the number wrong. I think it was over $7,000 in prize support this year. Like just an insane stuff. The Mountain who paints, Ulf paints, donated and painted 3 of those armies. Like, he will beat me up physically IRL for real in real and actual armor. He took my measurements and everything. If we hit our secret goal of 15404, but I'll be happy with just hitting the 10K. So. Um, so everyone, there we go. So shameless self promotion in there, but yeah. So I had Yvonne, and one of the things we were kind of talking about is like how pop culture represents ADHD, kind of disarming you from being able to recognize it.
Mhm.
So like you think yeah like you see I wear a headset because I move around too much. I have a
Yeah,
stand microphone and I prefer a stand microphone, but my audio will be inconsistent because I'm like constantly shifting in my seat and I'm like bouncing my knee and stuff. So I wear a headset for podcasts for that reason.
that makes
You
sense.
can actually go back like to God like 7 years ago, the first podcast I ever did. Technophiles podcast, TPN network, everybody. So yeah, I had like a classic Yeti back then, and you can see me like really trying real hard to stay here on the broadcast. Sorry, tangent.
I think that would drive me nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if where does the extra energy go if I don't physically constantly move my body?
So can you see this doorway here? So I'm at my computer,
Uh-huh.
and so back in there is where my hobby space is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I play Apex Legends a lot, like probably most nights with my buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And in between games, when I'm working on projects, because I have a wireless headset, I'll literally be in there like scraping mold lines, and like I could slap some paint on a base,
Yeah.
because I can't, for the 1 minute that I'm not doing something, I'm like, oh, I can hear us dropping in. I guess I better go sit back at my desk. Like even doing something I want to do,
Yeah.
it's just back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and it's fascinating because you like we've both kind of picked up our own like sort of like subtle coping mechanisms over time with and it's really fascinating. But yeah, the like trying to look for what was that accepted I think is what it was called with was it Brandon Lee or whatever it was a college movie where they make their own college.
just Justin Long.
Yeah, Justin Long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Justin Long. There's like a few other characters, and the one character shows up and he's like, "I have ADHD," and he's just like fucking going wild at the door. I'm like, and now I'm just like, I watch it, I get like, I'm offended. That's way closer to my hypomania for my bipolar than my ADHD asshole.
Like you could like identify, you're like, actually that's wrong because it's this and
Yeah,
that's what I have, and I
yeah,
think that.
like that's closer to like mania, but like as someone who has hypomania, because bipolar 2 doesn't get mania, and the more you know, blee. No, it like it just but those pop culture representations of like sort of neurodivergence where it like throws you off, or even like what you hear through word of mouth from like parents and teachers and stuff like that. Well, like, oh, they got to have ADHD because it's behavioral problems, and it's like I don't have behavioral problems. I got into fights and stuff, and then that thing happens where you're like,
That
oh
doesn't mean you're
no.
ADHD. But I mean, like
Yeah.
I graduated in 2001, and like I just remember in high school, like, oh, that kid's on Adderall, or like you looked at like the mental health thing wasn't really
No, the last 10
as
years have been
recognized.
huge for mental health. Like
Yeah, yeah,
huge.
yeah.
We've
So it's
even
like,
moved more into like neuroscience as opposed to like straight psychology. Like these last 10, even 20 years, like so post high school for kind of both of us is where a lot of the surges in the medical science of mental health really started to advance and started culturally taking it more seriously. Sorry, continue.
oh no, no, but that's exactly right. It's like, if the kid's doing this in class, it's like that's what they had to look at and go, okay, well, yeah, you got ADD. Let's give you some meds. And it was like that was about as deep as they went. Like it's the problem, kid. Got to give them the stuff. And it's like that's just not how it is now. Like knowing, when I found out that I had ADHD, it was like a year ago. I was like, oh, okay, this makes a lot of sense. And I told my mom, I was like, yeah, so I got diagnosed with ADHD, and she's like, what?
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I've always had a lot of energy, but it's like I didn't display that one symptom, so it was never recognized as being like you actually might have this, mental,
Hmm.
uh, you know, whatever condition. So it's like I don't know. I think that it's kind of what you're saying. Like the way it's portrayed is very one dimensional, and it's like that's not how I experience it, but that's what I've got,
Like I have so many like internalized like what are they called, like sort of self biases and self hatreds, that I did it like that I kind of internalized accidentally over time. And it was, things like calling myself, oh, I'm like super lazy, like, and then the real, like, I'm not lazy, I'm just like never doing the thing that I'm supposed to do. Like I work fucking 16 hours on Tuesday, and I will work 12
Yeah.
hours to
Like I'm
16
not a
hours
lazy person. Look at this. Look
every
what I
day.
just did.
That, yeah, like I will be permanently sunburned all summer now because I'm just out in the sun, and my Irish ass has two colors, it's white and red, like like,
That's awesome.
so yeah, I'm not like lazy, it's just like trying to like on purpose focus on the thing I want to focus on is very difficult, you
Well,
know
but that's what you've been used to calling it your whole life because you didn't
I'm
know that
lazy.
this
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
that you've
I'm
got.
lazy.
And it's
Yeah, go ahead.
my thing similar to that is I say, and I've only recently learned that I shouldn't do this because I now have kids and I don't want them to have the same mindset,
Hmm.
is that I say, oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, I'm so stupid. I forgot that. Oh, I'm so dumb. I
Yeah,
forgot
like
to
the
do this. And
forgetfulness.
it's
Yeah.
like I don't I don't think I'm stupid. It's just that that's what comes out of my mouth
Yeah.
when I realize that like I'm not doing what I want to be doing or what I should be doing, and it's like so trying to learn to adjust that internal
Those
dialogue
biases. Yeah,
away
they
from
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, update your
Yep. So
lexicon so you don't have those like those things, because there's a strong hereditary component to ADHD. My son just got diagnosed now shortly after me, and he's going through medication, and kids can't like self-advocate as well as adults can, so you have to watch them even more and see if he loses his appetite because this stimulant medication, it's a
yeah.
whole thing. But we caught it early. We according to his therapist, we caught it like at the right time to catch it for a kid.
Oh, good.
So
That's
it's
awesome.
like this is so hopefully he won't grow up with that, but like talking about that vernacular change, distracted, instead of saying I'm stupid or like forgetful or like blah blah, like I'll just like I don't even know if that's good, but it's better, because like
Yeah.
my partner Lulu has been phenomenal. The minute this happened about a year ago, like I started to go like I think it might have even been time blindness, might have even been like 2020 during quarantine. I started to be like, I might have ADHD, because I started to see those stupid fucking memes come out where like, you know, realize, thinking I was X, Y, or Z is like kind of the setup. Realizing I have adult ADHD, or adult, like, realizing I've had undiagnosed ADHD as an adult, and it's like a 1-2 punch. And I would do that thing where I would see the joke and I go, that's funny. Oh no, like it's just like, and
Is
that
that funny or is it true?
yeah, like
You're like,
funny or true, and and then that led to research, and that led to consuming like content creators like Connor DeWolf and what is it, How to ADHD on YouTube. She's super like fantastic.
oh, I think I've seen her stuff, but I think it was because of you. You posted something about the bridge with the
Yeah,
I
the
don't
rungs
know.
in
Like,
on the bridge to get across. Like,
yeah, it's like I can't get from here to here without some fillers, and how do you build
yeah,
those,
that's that
yeah,
external motivation thing. Yeah, because
yeah,
we
yeah.
we suck at like internal motive in like ADHD. So like I always thought I was contrarian, and it turns out like I'm not necessarily contrarian. It's just like negativity just doesn't work on me. So like if you like come at me negative, of course I'm gonna like completely reverse the situation. So you have to. If you're like Andrew, you suck at that. I'm like, go fuck yourself. I'm awesome. But like, but like, like so spite motivator. Like I will invert and do the opposite. But like, it's the external positive motivation is like because the voice inside my head doesn't necessarily like help me do the thing or doesn't necessarily get me on task. And if I'm like, this is the date when I need to finish this, except I forget that Tuesday next week is the 12th or whatever. Like I'm just like I don't know that the 12th and Tuesday are the same date. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's like in 2 more Tuesdays.
Yeah, I definitely had to use the app. I like the reminders app in my phone. Like I've got take my pills, do this, do that. This
Yep.
is this. Like if I don't use that stuff, I'm just constantly asking my wife, like,
Yeah.
when is this again?
Yeah.
Is that in the calendar? Did we? Yeah. No, how do you think I have one painted army? It's because LVO came up and I changed 4 different times and I was like, I've got a month. I probably should finish. Like I didn't start painting my Iron Jaws until after I got back from Christmas, and LVO was at the end of January. So it's like, well, it's too late to change my mind now, and I've already paid all the money for everything, so I have to do this. Okay, because otherwise it wasn't
Well,
happening.
this
So
my Ossiarch Bone Reapers got finished. Got finished like the night of for Wapaka, the last Wapaka we ever had, January 2020, right around the time of LVO. OBR came out uh, October 31st, technically. Like, so they didn't lie to us. They came out with the FOMO box with ogres and pre-orders
yeah,
on October 31st. Those didn't actually release until halfway through November, and then the actual full armor the full army proper didn't drop until like most of the way through November, and so, and then I had like shipping issues, so I didn't receive my army until like January 1st or
you're like,
2nd.
cool. I got 3 weeks.
Yep, and I just hyper fixated, ground through it, got the army finished, to debut it, and I still was like playing with 1850 points instead of like 2K, and still went three
All I
and
could
two
do.
and like slapped people around the table, and it was really fucking funny. But but no, it was a good. No, I mean that's that like external motivator though is like I know I want to go to this thing, so that's a positive, like because I want to go to the thing, and so then I need to like, and that's outside myself because if I set the date, then I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, that it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
Because if I
basically.
set it, then I can change it. Especially if it's just me working on this thing for myself,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I totally get that.
So you mentioned you had like one army painted. I saw you were moving your Seraphon. Like you've got Nighthaunt you've been working on now. Like where are we at now? Okay.
So yeah,
It's a
so
trap. No, go ahead.
that's just like the glimpse into my like the way that my brain works with that type of stuff because it's Night Haunt came out and I started to kind of get the old tingles where it's like
Hmm.
I bet I could probably paint those, like I bet I could probably make them look the way I would want to, which is in my mind that's cool. I could paint them cool to what I would like. So okay, so and then you start seeing the little hints come out like, ooh, this is this, and then all the leaks hit, and I was like, yeah, I'm playing this army for sure.
My bad.
And so, so take motivation wherever you can get it, right?
Yeah.
So, um, but I've started to have to kind of put these little ways to get things done in my own brain where it's like, okay, so my Seraphon behind me over here on the table, I was like, I'm gonna paint all my skinks in one go. I built a bunch, and I hate building. I hate it. So I slogged through it, and I was like, if I do some airbrush base coats, I can do all these skinks in one go. Like I can do, and I did. But it was like by the time now I've got 30 base coated. Well, now I got to do 30 little head fins and 30 sets of scales and 30, and it's like I couldn't even finish the unit. It was such a drag. So I told myself with the Night Haunt, because that's my new like fixation is, okay, I'm only going to do a model at a time, one hero at a time, start to finish, or a small unit of 4, Banshees. I can do that start to finish. And I decided, okay, I have to do it in a way that's manageable for me. Where if I can airbrush 80% of base coats, and then I just have to do some details on weapons, and I can base them, and they can look good, like they're good enough for what I want them to be, and not like I'm not going to win best painted at LVO with them or anything like that, but I'm happy with the way they look. Then maybe that's what I need to do so I can finish it, because no one's setting a goal for me right now. No one's saying this thing's coming up and you have to have these painted. But since I can go start to finish with something, it gives me that sense of satisfaction, that dopamine hit,
That
right? So
dopamine, yeah.
then that's my motivation for the next unit. And then once I started to lose it a little bit, I'm like, okay, I'll build until I can't stand it, which was about a week. And then and then it's right back to painting, because then I'm like, okay, like I have a unit of Grimghast Reapers that I'm probably like 75% of the way done, and I started them 2 days ago. So I'm like, okay, like I can finish the unit, I'll be happy with them, and then I'll do like a hero. And so
I saw your
kind of,
excruciator it was that like a few days ago, maybe that was a week ago. Time blindness. I saw the excruciator looking really good actually.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was, and it's like I'm not doing anything different other than he's got a couple more details, so I'll spend a little bit more time, on the cross thing he's got on his back. I'll make it look real fancy, and it's like that's what sets him apart,
Right.
And then there we go. So I'm like, okay, this might be an army that I can actually finish without any other external motivators other than I'm really enjoying it, because I've put those structures around how I do it. But Sylvaneth is coming out. Like once those leaks start coming out, like I already went and bought an Echoes of Doom box. It shows up, I think, on Saturday, and it's like once it lands at my house, I'm gonna be like, I could just build like a Tree Lord Ancient and like maybe paint
And
it.
then you're
Like,
off chasing the dopamine a different
uh,
direction.
yeah, I gotta just hide that box in my basement, because it's that same cycle. So yeah, it's what it looks
It's
like,
it's it's like staring into a mirror right now. I mean, of more beautiful mirror, but of the
yeah.
mental.
Yeah, it's just the time delay through the internet. You're seeing the same thing right
That's what
now.
it is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's very fascinating because you essentially started out talking about batch painting, and then you switched to sort of like a model at a time, and you're exactly right. Like you keyed in on the ADHD, like the dopamine hit, because you get to see a model finished, which is where we get the dopamine. Like we don't get the dopamine from like all the primed models, right?
No,
Like not necessarily. Like some folks might, but like
like a
it.
zenithal highlight might look cool because it accentuates all the
Yeah,
details,
yeah,
but once you go past that, you're back in, I call it the ugly middle. It's
yeah.
like if it doesn't look like done or really close, drives it's I hate it.
Yeah,
I hate it.
there's no dopamine there, right? Like so
Yeah.
like so if you have like a bunch of like I keep using skeletons, use ghosts or whatever, and they're just like all like base coats now. Well, there's it doesn't like I'm looking at the like I can't process. Well, if I stay this path, yeah, it's more efficient, and down the line, I'll get them all done, and then I'll get that huge dopamine payoff. Like
Yeah.
my brain's not like nuh like I'm getting distracted by Twitter now. Like now I'm like another army comes out and I've got everything primed. Like I have like here's a I don't know like 20 direwolves sitting over here built. See, I actually love building. Painting's the harder one for me.
Dude, we should just swap stuff. Like I'll send you all my stuff to build, and then you build it,
And then you paint
and
my
then I'll
shit.
paint
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
This was too many skinks at once. This was the number. This is as far as I got, and I was like, I mean, if you look at those, some of them are like three-quarters of the way done. Like I'm like, you could slap the base on them and put them on the table, and you'd be like, yeah, that looks great. But it's that was too many. So
Well, it's fascinating because I talked to Dr. Alex Milonis, who's a psychologist, a therapist, and stuff. Um, and we've had these. So I've talked to him a lot prior to my diagnosis, and like post diagnosis, I kind of want to like reset with him, talking about some of these like sort of like mental utility type tricks to sort of like motivate yourself through the hobby. And it really is like one different strokes for different folks, right? Like you don't
sure.
need to be neurodivergent, neurotypical, anything like that to still have various like problems with motivators and dopamine and all that stuff. Like whether you're ADHD or not, it's an inability to regulate, right? Like it is, and it's all the other stuff that comes with it. It's not just that like you get bored painting your army. Like everything else, and that's
Yeah.
and so I don't want people to like be self-diagnosing off of us sharing our anecdotal stuff here. Um, but it's fascinating because like I do like the building, like cause I like when I pose them and I get them together because I do feel like I've finished something when I put it together. But then it's like, well, now it's gray plastic, and I'm like the barrier to get the dopamine hit again before it like I can just build another model and get dopamine.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Rather than 27 different paints and
right.
hours worth of work. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like it's gonna take me a while. So it's like, well, I know I should be painting my dire wolves now, and like priming them and doing all this stuff because like they're not that difficult to paint. Dire wolves are like dry brush makes them look great. Like
Yeah.
you,
Slap some wash and a couple dry
yeah,
brushes. Like they've got the sculpting to pick up the
yeah,
paint just fine. Like, yeah.
yep. They're super textured, especially the new ones. Like maybe pick out a couple of like the gnarly marks, get some like gooey, like
Blood
go
for
in there
blood
with
god
some
or
like
whatever.
and you can make them look great for very low effort. But my brain goes, yeah, but then I have to start this whole other thing to like get that. But there's a box of like more direwolves over there that I don't need. So now I just have like 50 direwolves, and my list only runs like 10.
There's models that can summon dire. Well, there's always a
Yeah,
reason
you
to
gotta
bring
have a
some more
summon
dire
board,
wolves.
right? Like, and then you start like going into the like the justifications and stuff.
That's my thing. I told my wife, like, I was like, I can justify anything. Like, I can give you like a justification for why I'm doing or not doing something that I should or shouldn't be doing, like, all day long. Like, that's no problem there. Whether you think it's valid, that's a different thing. But for me, it's like, hey, this is just why it is. It's the way it is.
I gotta come back to my partner. She has been awesome. Like I said, I started watching the various content creators who talked about ADHD, and then I started doing research and like when I got by the time I was in like the DSM-5, and I'm like, oh shit, like I'm all 9 symptoms. Like I'm not even just one or two, and like where like you can if you like go to WebMD, you could diagnose yourself with anything from like diphtheria to cancer, and like
I
off of
sneezed and I have cancer. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, and so like self-diagnosis is no bueno, but I'm very good at research, chat gang. So I'm kidding. No, so we did that, but around that time that I had the suspicion, my partner started watching them even more because she wanted to be like supportive and understand me more and stuff like that. So like she started telling me about like stuff that she's like, well, that's emotional dysregulation, and that's what this is, and this. I'm like, okay, doctor. And then she actually, because I will keep procrastinating even important things until I absolutely must. You know, if I have a toothache, like I'm staring at the train on whether the tooth will fall out or the pain gets too unbearable type thing to like
Uh,
schedule it. Like it's bad. Like my ability to procrastinate, and it's because the focus shifts onto other stuff, and I try to triage and whatever. But I'm tangent.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
but like she's like, Andrew, if I call our doctor, will you go in? And she basically had to like pull the reins out of and she knows that I'm a defiant individual, contrarian, dirty anarchist, yada yada yada. And she's like, Andrew, if I call them, like, will you go in? And I'm like, fine. And she had to do it. She booked the date. She put the fucking thing on my calendar on my phone, reminded me for weeks, and
This is coming. This is coming.
yeah, and I'm like, okay, like, and I went in and I, talked to the doctor and, hey, like, Andrew, you haven't been in for your physical in 10 years. I'm like, let's get into it. But like, if my leg's not
We'll
falling
get
off,
there.
I don't need a
Yeah,
physical.
we'll
What are you
get there.
talking about?
I like
Uh,
that. No teeth, no problem.
yeah, no teeth, no problem. No, like if I don't have, like like I've been having like back pain and like really bad, especially like my shoulder blades. Like could be a dislocated disc. I don't know. Like who knows? It's just been like bugging me forever, and I still haven't gone into the. I've finally, Andrew, you haven't been in for like 10 years, and I'm like, okay, I was getting to it. But also the real reason I came in here, so like you did all the physical stuff, and I'm fine by the way. I'm healthy. I could stand to lose some weight, but we all know where that is. Um, and and then I'm like, well, but the real reason I came in is I need a referral to a behavioral therapist.
Mhm.
Because I think I have ADHD. I know I'm depressed. Um, and so he referred me, and then I kind of started that journey. And again, December 28th, like Andrew, turns out you do have ADHD, severe, both types. inattentive and hyperactive, which is an older classification. But like, so like my buddy, one of my buddies only really has the inattentive side of ADHD, so he's even harder to detect.
Right, because it's like you don't see it all the time.
Right.
But well, that's something I think that you point out is pretty important. Is I've kind of got that same thing where like my wife knows me really well, and she catches a lot of the stuff that I don't really know about myself, or I don't catch
Well,
myself.
because
I
you've
used to call them,
internalized it, or you've coped, or you've masked for so long, right? Like, and you,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, go on.
and I just call them, I call it a bad brain day.
Yes.
Like like
Perfect
I
vernacular. Yeah.
I don't even know. It's like all of a sudden it's like halfway through the day, and I'm like, why do I feel so terrible? Like, what is going on? And she asked the questions. Well, what about this? And have you been dealing with that, or has this happened? And it's like I started to notice that it's like it for me. It's little setbacks, little things. I mean, like stuff that doesn't even phase other people. I mean, it could be anything. It could be I painted a model and I didn't like the color scheme. That's one drop in the bucket. Or oh, I wanted to buy this thing and I only had $10, but it cost $12, so I couldn't get it, so I had to get something different. Or someone sent me a meeting that I didn't want to get. Like just anything, just
They
little
ran
tiny
out of my
setbacks.
favorite flavor at the fucking coffee shop, so now I had to settle for the thing. And I was like, I was dead set on getting
Yep.
the mocha, and I had to settle for a fucking mint chocolate instead. Like, fuck this whole day. Yeah.
I wanted the new Mountain Dew, and they only had it at this gas station, but I had to go to 7 other gas stations to find it, and every single one I went to that didn't have it made me that much more. Yeah, it was just. But she caught that, and she
That's
was
the
the one that
emotional
was like,
dysregulation.
yeah. She's like, you should go talk to somebody. She's like, I think that you maybe just need to talk to somebody about this kind of stuff. And that's what led me to that same point. But it was like I wouldn't have known that on my own. But I'm a little bit different where once I know there's a solution, or at least like if my tooth hurts, I'm calling the doctor today. If my back starts being weird, like I'm calling them right now. Like get me in. Like I want this answered. I want a solution. So like I have to
So you
to
will
know.
fixate on trying to get the solution.
Yeah,
Like you'll
once I know. But it's like I'm usually like I'm so oblivious to every to the
yeah,
what's going on. And
that's
it's
being
like once
attentive.
it's
Yeah.
yep, once it's focused in on this thing, then I'm there, and it's like, okay, yeah, like, you
Uh,
know,
yeah.
yeah,
No, I think that's awesome. Like I'm, my mind is thinking to the about an audience of 1,000 that watch Rantcast, and I'm thinking to like the couple people in the audience who have undiagnosed ADHD, and this is gonna be the show where they're like, I should probably talk to somebody, like, and
I mean,
the worst is
seriously,
someone tells you like, no, actually you're fine, or maybe you have this other thing going on, and but you get it out the way, right? Because it's the
yeah,
stigmatization, the just not knowing what you don't know factor was huge for me. I'm depending on the day, I joke that I'm a very smart person, or that I'm a person who's so smart. I'm smart enough to know that I'm too stupid about stuff. Depending on the day, that might be the bipolar side. Today, I think I'm a smart guy, so I must be on the good swing of my bipolar.
there you go.
But it still doesn't stop me from not knowing shit, right? Like I don't know what I don't know, and
Right.
nobody does.
Mhm.
Stop talking about me, Andrew.
We just love you.
No, I love you too, Dad. No, yeah, my partner was huge in the whole process. That's where we came up with the like she'll watch me zone out in a conversation. Like
Hmm.
she will
Hmm.
see my face do it, and 3 years ago, a fight. It was one of those like sort of like like just check the box, and every time I did it, it was like T-4 more until a fight, right? And now it's like it's not that like her patience have gone up, but understanding is huge. And so
Yes.
like
Hmm.
so normally just thinking like I don't care, or like I don't this or that or the other thing, I'm like, no, I care like immensely. Like I'm a deeply passionate
Yes.
person. Like
Hmm.
I love you more today than I did every day before, and
And
it
how is
keeps
that
building.
possible? Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yep. Hmm.
and like the whole fucking fight. And now it's like when she sees me check out during the conversation, she's like, Andrew, you didn't hear any of that, did you? And I'm like, nope. And as
Yeah.
opposed to
Yeah.
like before, when I'd have to like lie about having heard it and like try to let my brain catch back up, where because you do that thing where you go like, what? But like, and then
Yeah.
you repeat what they say, like
I'm like, can you start over from the beginning just real quick? Can you? And then she'll like start like 3 words, and I'm like, no, I need the first word. Like, what did you? what was that? And I'm like, okay, I got it now. So what you're saying is this and this and this. Okay, I'm here. But it's like same thing. She could tell that I'm like, or I'm on my phone. The worst thing is to start a conversation with me when I'm already
Oh,
distracted,
yep.
because then I'm like, hold on, I'm trying to.
I have to finish this thing over here.
Uh huh. Uh huh. Uh huh. Oh wait, sorry. Hold on. What was that? Like but she recognizes that now. Yeah. So I'm lucky that she has a lot of patience for that, where she understands I'm not doing something because I'm an asshole or because I don't care. Like you said, I very deeply
Huge.
do. So
I mean, I love that you used the specific word asshole. There are diagnoses for bipolar, ADHD, autism, so on and so forth. There is no diagnosis for being an asshole. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole. Like, if you're neurodivergent, that's something else. Like, I
yeah.
think that's an important distinction because with the discourse going on in the tabletop RPG community, which I'm adjacent to as
Mm.
well, about someone sort of using their neurodivergence as an excuse to have gaslit and abused people, it's like, whoa, now, like
That's its own thing.
I'm
Yeah.
like I've got like the trifecta of like so trauma induced like CPTSD, which is complex, post traumatic stress disorder. So like that one's like trauma afflicted, like that's external factors like put that on me, like and then I've got bipolar and ADHD, and those are both genetic, basically my brain chemistry.
You
Um,
got the trifecta,
yeah,
man.
trifecta, like it's the Monstars, like they're just like, can you believe it, that fucking Chris Tucker when he like does and then they like alley oop, and they're doing that in my head at all times, and I'm like, still haven't abused people, like I might be aloof sometimes and
Yeah.
distractible. Like there's a difference between being like neurodivergent, mentally ill, having these issues, especially when you're treating them, because by the time you get to the point where you're like treating it, you start to recognize your own patterns. You start to go, like you said with the phone thing, like Molly, like if I'm currently on my phone, she's like, Andrew, are you ready? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, are you ready now? And I'm like, and then like I'll like finish the conversation I was having, but then I saw
Finish
another
your tweet.
notification. Yeah, I saw another notification up at the top. So I'm like, I go to about to hit that one, and she's like, Andrew, and I'm like, oh yeah, and then I'll like put my phone down and
You're
like,
like,
and
okay,
then we'll have
yeah,
the conversation.
I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, and that's different from like if we, if I start gaslighting her and like fly off the handle and be like, I was doing this super important Twitter thing, fuck you, like that's different.
Yeah. Yeah. But something you said earlier, I think, that kind of made me think about this is that, just deciding to uh, go see somebody or to do something about it, like I can't tell you how big of an advocate I am for taking care of yourself. And some people aren't, some of it's monetary, I get that, and some of it's just like you haven't reached a point in your own understanding of your mental health where like I can't go see somebody because my brain won't let me get there. Or even if, like you said, like it takes me so long to get to the point where I will go, it might be 10 years, but like realizing that there might be something that you need to look at or fix, whether it's physical or mental, like
Yeah.
we're only going to get older, like every day. You're only going to, the longer you have something that you don't know how to deal with, the worse. I mean, it scares me to think of like, what is my brain going to be like when I'm 90 if I'm alive? It's like, if I don't take care of it now, if I don't learn these steps now or learn ways to help myself or seek help or get meds or whatever, it's like it's only going to get worse. And so I've tried, as like my big thing is like 40, like that's less than a year now. It's like I don't want to get into my I don't want to get into my 40s and be this way or look this way or feel this way. It's like, okay, like I keep using my 40s as like the excuse to like
Well,
get
that's the
stuff done.
external motivator. That's the
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So but it's been uh just really, like, my life is a lot different now, just kind of being able to get to that point where I have recognized that that's important to me to take care of that stuff, where in my 20s and whatever in before, it's just like I either didn't know that it was important or that I had something to deal with or look at, or it just didn't matter. And so now going, okay, how much better do I feel that I've done this, or I went and talked to a therapist, or I got my deviated septum fixed. Like I didn't
Yeah,
even know
whatever it
what
was.
breathing was like. Yeah, it's just like if you can, you should. Like you're gonna feel so much better. So
Yeah, no, you're
I,
100% right. Like the quality of life and stuff, and we do live in
mhm,
a time where it's tough all over for everybody. And so if you have the ability to, there are
mhm.
some pretty good resources. If you don't, on the mental health side, which I've looked into a little bit more, I know there tend to be a lot of like free or super cheap resources. Uh,
Yeah,
there's even like now like a good what is it good RH or whatever for like getting medication for super cheap, and
yeah.
freaking dude, the owner of what sports ball team is that? Shark Tank man,
Oh,
Urban
Mark Cuban,
Cuban, yeah, Mark Cuban's like, screw
Dallas
this,
Mavericks. Yeah.
yeah, Dallas, yeah, yeah. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, like, screw Big Pharma, like, I'm gonna release a whole new website where I just sell stuff at a standard 50% markup instead of a 1,000% markup.
What a guy, man. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Owner of the Mavs. So like, there's, I think we live. It's easy to take the black pill and doomer, like
Mhm.
right now, especially. Like it is tough all over. I do not want to play down the systemic or hierarchical, because anarchy, hierarchical like factors that are like kind of like oppressing people. Again, it is systemic. It is by design. I am not trying to like understate that, um, but there's hope,
Yeah.
and there are ways out. There are resources. There are people who will help you. I know that for a fact that this Age of Sigmar community is teaming with individuals who will help people out, who will help advocate for you, will help give you just a pat on the back to whether it's finish a model or like, hey, did you go to the doctor yet? I know that there's people in here that'll have your back if you're willing to like just take that first step and like kind of admit and reach out to people.
Well,
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
definitely agree with that. Like I said before, we really like interacted a whole bunch. Like I would see that from you, and just as you interact with other people, or like you said, you see the memes, you start to see these things like, or just talking about it. Like I'll tweet stuff about it every now and again. You'll tweet stuff about it. There are other people who are dealing with these same type of things, and just being able to find that solidarity with like other people. I'm not the only person that has this, that sees this or feels this way,
Yeah.
and using that as kind of a safe space, if you will, or a way to learn a little bit more about it, and realize that maybe I do need that. And if that's all the help you can get right now, then that's
Mhm.
great. At least you've got something. I think the community as a whole is really awesome for that.
Yeah, I mean the amount of, I mean, community goes a long way. Like social safety nets, having people in your corner, having people to reach out to, having that solidarity. Those things go a long way. I mean, we have studies on. I was actually hearing a fascinating story from video essayist talked about. They were doing a show about like religiosity and stuff like that. And basically, like because of COVID and quarantine, a lot of the church and stuff shut down. So this like far right individual started going to like these labor movement organizations at like that were just kind of using church space because it was like all that was available. And so like suddenly this like far right sort of like anti-labor movement gentleman is just like hanging out with all the labor movement people because he just needed a community. And
Yeah,
so like now he's like conservative on like all points except for
except for the labor movement.
labor movement, and it's like that's hilarious. Like that's all, like people need. We are
You are
tribal.
what you eat.
Yeah, and good stuff in, good stuff out, right? Like, but we are tribal creatures. We are hyper social creatures. Humanity as a species is so social. We go out and socialize other creatures into our communities. Like domesticated animals,
Dogs and
horses,
cats. Yeah.
cats, like dogs, like we. That's how social we are. I think I don't like pop culture is hardly science, but a great metaphor for this is Wilson on Castaway. Like, like we will Wilson a motherfucker if we need to. We will go, like humanity will go out and we will create social structures where we need them.
Man, that movie made me cry, and I still remember that too. I was like, it's a volleyball, but it floats away, and it's Wilson.
Oh, he's like, and then he's just like,
He's that attached.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like we need like and time and time again, study and study again. Like folks who are socially vulnerable tend to be vulnerable in other aspects without community, without things backing them, without people to go through. So community goes a long way. Having people in your corner
Mhm.
go a long way. And I know that as part of my depression, my therapist said like the voice in my head that like it makes me not want to talk to people, that tells me like no, I deserve to be alone, and like that's part of my illness. So I understand if you've got that going on in your head too, dear chat gang. I get that. Trust me. But sometimes it just takes like a quick Twitter conversation, or like maybe a little bit more close community, like a Discord server or somebody, um, and we're all kept at the edge of our bandwidth. So sometimes maybe nobody's awake on the Discord server at that time. You feel vulnerable. There are networks and numbers for that too. So
Yep.
I'll have stuff links. Incantibot's asleep right now. I forgot to turn them on, but I'll have links in the VOD part here for some of these mental health resources I've talked about. This is a perfectly rantcast, but this isn't quite where I expected things to go.
So it's I always say like sometimes I get way out here and like okay, now to bring it back, like that's it's a lot of my stories go that way. It's like I'll start talking about something else, and all of a sudden I'm like way out in the weeds, and it's like, but it brings me back to the thing that I was starting to talk about. It's like an hour ago or whatever. Yeah.
Lulu, how do I feel about foosball? Like foosball or football? I love foosball. Like actual like foosball. Um, Big fan. Would 10 out of 10 would have a foosball table in our dining room where we set up our dining room table. That's my
Sleep
partner,
time.
by the way. Um,
Okay.
she rarely graces chat gang, but here she is.
Here
Remember to
we are.
use our Amazon Prime and give me half our money back. Um,
There you go. Night night, Tristan. Sleep tight.
yeah. Good night. Good night, Team Dad. Rest well, my friend. Um, yeah. No, foosball table. She must be shopping. Did I miss it? Excuse me. I expected to like open up my phone and see like a picture of a foosball table because she's like at like the store or something. Like, hey, am I buying this right
Ah,
now?
it's like it's already set up in our living
No, a fan of foosball. I think our like all-time record. I'm currently beating her though because we're competitive with each other in our relationship.
room. I
Um,
love it.
she might have me in air hockey, but I'm
I
fairly
had
certain.
a I had a roommate once that we had a foosball table. We found it on the side of the road and we brought it home.
As one
And
does, yeah.
yeah, it's like, it's not one of the big heavy ones, obviously. We just two dudes could pick it up and stuff, but we played it so much that maybe this was my like my Warhammer side, my hobby side sneaking out because I went to the like Michaels or something and I bought paint and I came back and I painted like Adidas stripes down like the shorts and I gave them little like I marked my captains, I gave everyone numbers, like I wrote like the team name on their chest, and then like I gave one a mustache to like my dad, and then we had like a season and we would keep stats like how many goals did this one
Amazing.
get and how like it was like yeah, yep. So
I love that. I love that so much. That's fantastic.
good old foosball.
Yeah. No, it's like we have a rough estimate of who's winning the most on the various games we play, and I think I've got foosball. I think she's got air hockey. Um, and she definitely has exploding kittens. Like for a while there, it was close, but it's been like a
Fun.
blowout lately. Like she just wins so many more games. She'll win like 3 or 4 hands a night, and I'll like win one, and then like one random stranger brought into our madness will win.
Are you
And
playing like tabletop simulator or something like that or
we have we still have like our pod or bubble of folks that come over for a
oh
board
sure,
for a board game night and stuff.
gotcha.
Although Lulu, you want a tabletop simulator, like take some chat gang to the cleaners. That could be an incentive goal for the Rantathon. Lulu whoops your ass at exploding kittens.
Exploding kittens, yeah, online.
Pull her into my insanity. She's already part of my insanity enough. Um, that would be great. Yeah, we still have to do an NBA Jam TE tournament for Chat Gang. That one's still on from last Rantathon. I don't know how I'm going to set
Classic.
that up, but I'm going to make it work. I'll look into some technology. But
Classic.
yeah. Um, yeah. So like, I had actually kind of intended to to talk about like sort of like the joke of hobby ADHD, and then like parlay that into talking about like ADHD for real. We actually like did the opposite. We talked about like ADHD and like hobby
I got
kind of
into the
came in every
jokes.
now and then.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's funny. Um, so yeah, that was the yeah. I mean, that was the main topic. So, Seraphon, was the selling Seraphon like a gag, or was that a real thing? Like in
No, it's happening. Yeah. I finally I kind of drug my feet about it for a little bit, but I'll use like Reddit and like Facebook and stuff to post it. And I have sold enough where like I'm pretty
you have a
like
process.
a whole process. Yeah, it's like I should have just opened a damn store. Um, but lately I've been trying to sell it like I don't want to ship to 15 different people, and I'd rather just sell it in one go. But it's a lot harder to find someone who wants everything you've got, and then it's like $500 for 3,000 points. But it's like it's a lot easier to find someone that wants to buy one model or one unit or whatever. So I've recently kind of switched it up, but I am selling it, so it just hasn't gone.
Did what urged that? Was it like you've got Night Hunt as the primary project, and you're like trees? Was it?
So it really was like at one point I had like my brain told me 5 armies was okay. Like I'm like I could do 5 arms, but it's like yeah, right. I work. I've got 2 kids. I have a wife that I like to spend time with. Like I have other things that I want to do. I'm never going to have it painted. I just won't.
hmm
And so then my brain goes, well, if you're never going to have it painted, then why do you have it? And so it's kind of like one in, one out. Like once I move on to a new project, there's always something that kind of suffers. And while I never thought it would be Seraphon, it is. Like I have a bunch of old like the old metal slan, and I'm keeping some Temple Guard and some Source like old plastic and metal models from like 1997
hmm
because I always wanted a Lizardman army, and so they are those models.
hmm
So I'm keeping those, and I'm okay with selling the rest of it. Um, but yeah, it was the Sylvaneth that was like, I think this has got to be my post Night Haunt project.
hmm
And if that's the case, then when am I ever going to finish painting Seraphon? I have other things I want to paint too. I don't paint like I don't sit down and paint a model. I've never painted a bust. I've never done like a project for fun because I feel like I'm always trying to like paint an army. And so like I got Marvel Crisis Protocol. I built half of it because again I hate building, but enough to like play something with. And it's like when am I ever going to paint those? And so it turns into this like stressful feeling of like people call them what you will. I'm going to call it a pile of shame, but people have different terms for that
Pile of
thing.
potential, but yeah, shame pile.
Yep,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
But for me, that was never like a point of pride. It's like if I look in my room and I've got more than like 5 boxes back there of stuff that isn't the next project, like
Anxiety. Right.
yeah, it
The
like makes me sweat. Like I'm like, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. And so I have to get rid of it. And so yeah, Ulf Payne says 2 armies max per system. And it's like I don't 2 isn't my number. It's probably 3 or 4, but if I'll ever even have 4 painted armies, I would be
I
shocked.
I
But
I think that I think that you're both onto something here. So having a limit of armies, I think, is healthy for anybody, neurodivergent, neurotypical, whatever. Like I think
sure.
it's just about having a sort of positive mental utility from your hobby. You have to understand the practical limits. They're going to vary individual to individual. Your amount of time that you have for an army, the amount of proficiency you're at getting armies finished, right? Like because you might have a method where you can churn out 3 armies like the mountain that paints here in like
That's
3 months.
incredible. Yeah.
But like whatever it is, like you have to have a understanding. You have to run some calibrations, as I like to say, Garrus. Calibrations.
Celebrations.
Yeah, you have to run some calibrations, some self diagnostics, and understand like what your limits are. It takes some time to get a realistic understanding of those limits too. By the way, like
It,
not.
it
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a quite a process. The other side of it too is I guess it's hobby related because we're talking about the game at this point, but like if I'm constantly switching armies or if I have 7 different things that I'm constantly playing or whatever, there are people that play one army and you can go to a tournament and you could be playing Lumineth, such a complicated, time-consuming army, or Soulblight Gravelords that you're moving 200 models, and it's like, but if you know all of that stuff, you don't have to look at your book or the War Scroll cards or the app or the this or the that, unless you want to like confirm what you're doing, Like it bugs me that I'm not at a point other than with my Iron Jaws that I can do that, where I can go and play a game with a friend or go to a tournament and play a game, and I'm not as familiar because I just keep doing something different. And so that mentality of going, okay, well, I have to limit myself if I want to be able to enjoy it, because otherwise I'm going to feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and that is
Oh,
frustrating for
ganked
me.
by Lulu. Did you buy us a foosball table? Did you come? I believe my truck keys are upstairs. I think we just got a
Go get
foosball
the
table,
foosball.
everybody. I'm the one who's supposed to impulse buy everything. What the hell? So that means it was free because she's frugal and I'm not. Speaking of ADHD.
Whatever it takes.
Also, so hypomania, which is the other side. So bipolar. This is the best metaphor I have for anyone who's not familiar with bipolar. There's bipolar 1, bipolar 2. They're formerly known as manic depressive disorder, but we know that it's bigger than that. So bipolar 1, if you can think that you have this pendulum that swings back and forth, and for anyone who's bipolar, the rate of the swing, how long it stays on either side of the pendulum, is going to change. But if you're bipolar 1, your pendulum swings deeper at some point into the mania side and shallower into the depression side. If you're bipolar 2, it swings deeper into the depression side and shallower into the mania side, which is why bipolar 2, we don't get like pure mania, we get hypomania, which is mini mania, basically. Which still comes with like impulsivity, recklessness, feelings of invulnerability or God syndrome. Like, it's good, let me tell you. I just thought I actually really was invincible my whole life. I didn't realize it was a symptom of my. You mean my telling my son I'm going to live to 100 might have been my hypomania thing, and then since I said it, I'm like, gotta double down. That contrarian part of my personality comes out.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no. Yeah. Impulsivity and impulse buying is like a problem for me. And when my hyperfixation on like a T-shirt, Eddie Kingston, baby, um, I'm really obsessed with Eddie Kingston right now. If my hyperfixation on Eddie Kingston and my hypomania, my impulse buying kick in, like tag team champs of the world, I am buying a fucking shirt tonight. If I was the one who saw the foosball table and I suddenly got it in my mind that we needed a foosball table in our house, we'd have a fucking foosball table. It is a problem.
I fully get that. I've got this. So I always have like a notebook.
Oh.
Oh, mini mag tray. There you go. I always have a notebook at my desk, and it's like filled with like just stuff. Like I have to get thoughts out, and I guarantee you, if you read in here, it literally explains like the process of my brain going, okay, well, it looks like uh I'm not doing this, or maybe I'm doing that, or it's wild. Like I read back through it and I'm like, man, a year ago I had Sylvaneth and I had Thorn and I had
Is this
uh
specific to
this
Warhammer, or is this like all
it
thoughts?
it started World of Warcraft when I was a World of Warcraft person. That's I collected all my thoughts in a notebook, but now it's literally, yeah. Uh like, oh cool, like I'm gonna do, like I have like lists of like stuck armies I might play and why I might do them, or what do I want to do for this, or this is what I'm doing today. And it's like it's constantly, it's like almost embarrassing to read, where I'm like, man, I could have saved myself so much money if I just wouldn't have sold all my Sylvaneth a year ago. I'd
I
have them now. But
I
it's like,
I can't share them all because some of it's like private or privileged
yeah.
information and stuff like that. It's post-it notes for me. All over my desk. Oh my god.
Here,
It's
if you
like
looked at
staring into a
my
handsomer
here,
mirror.
I'm gonna show you my work desk. This is my work desk. Post-it notes all over every like the colors aren't picking up. But yeah, I have post-it notes
Yeah, I keep stacks
everywhere.
like on hand. I have the notebooks that everyone has. My Moleskin journal, which is similar to yours, that tracks my thoughts, often ends up with poetry in it, is on my headboard right now. Usually it's in arm's reach, but I took a nap after work today, so I left it on the headboard in the rush to like take my daughter to go shopping and get dinner and make dinner and stuff. So, but I remembered where it was, so I know the meds are working, baby. Let's go. Because normally I set something down and it's like fucking gone.
Where did it go?
And
Yeah,
I'm buying
luckily
a new
my
Moleskin
routine
journal.
tells me where it is. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
they're great.
yeah. No, it's fascinating. It's just kind of resetting it back to like the sort of army impulsivity and stuff like that. So, you kind of like migrate a little bit the hobby ADHD. Do you have a favorite army? Is there one that's been No, no.
No, so it's kind of like sports teams are kind of this way for me too. Like I have different reasons for liking different stuff. So like Ironjaw started for me with the Maw Crusher.
I think that's very human. I think there's like we contain multitudes. Like we have an ability. We're
Yeah.
complex individuals. Yeah, go on, go on.
Yeah, so it's like the Iron Jaws for me was the Maw Crusher, and I love the brutes. Like I just love the way they look. Like they look to me the way an orc should look, and they just look so awesome. And so for me, that's kind of what latched onto it. And it's like the lore kind of adds to that. Um, but it's like if they don't visually stimulate my cool center, like then I don't then I can't do it. And then for Nighthaunt, it's just like just the models and like the movement and stuff that they have.
Hmm.
I really like that. But it's like story wise or whatever, probably like Flesh Eater Courts, just because of the
They
way that they are.
their lore is awesome. Their
They
models
have
don't
some
quite
of the
land for me,
best.
but their lore is I
Yeah,
think the best.
yeah. If they redid them and kind of blended that with like we used to be knights, but now we're like, man,
Just
that would
show
be.
me on the model. I want to see their delusions on the model a little bit. I don't want these
Mhm.
like little blank slates. I want them to actually
Yeah.
like have some affects of their delusion being
Hmm.
made real. Like I want them to
Right.
be a little bit more expressive, a little bit more detailed. Because if they
Yeah.
were, I would have. So I have two armies. That's my limit. Um,
Okay.
they are Beasts of Chaos and All of Death.
All encompassing. That's a good. Yeah. I
But I
like
don't have Flesh Eater Courts. So and my Night Haunt I've rotated through constantly because I am poor and bad with money. And so as a content creator, I was doing like partner pushes and various giveaways like early on. Even kind of like really before I was known for like AOS RantCast. I still I've been a streamer for my son is 9. I've been a streamer for 9 years.
Okay.
And I've been a YouTuber, podcaster, and games journalist prior, about 11. So I've had a digital presence for a long time, and when I was making my partner push for Twitch and stuff, I did some giveaways and I gave away Warhammer stuff and I gave away my Night Haunt stuff because I wasn't playing it and I didn't have anything else. And I'll collect more Night Haunt and I'll fucking give it away again. Like I'll go to a charity raffle, and it's like, well, I'm never. It's for me, it's a little bit like the Seraphon thing. It's like I'm never gonna like. I'm not great at keeping a schedule, but I still have to like have a like plan. Like my
Sure.
brain
Mhm.
requires like a plan,
Something. Yeah.
a roadmap or something. And so I have a roadmap, which is where like I started buying Slanesh, and I've consequently given away most of my Slanesh at this point. I started buying Slanesh because I was going to incorporate them with my Beasts of Chaos, and so I was going to do the death thing that I did, where like, I have two armies. They're
Mhm.
Slanesh because my Beasts of Chaos are
Yeah.
or Slanesh
I have
themed.
two armies, chaos and death now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like I was going to do that with Slanesh and my Beasts of Chaos. Um, uh, but like I started to do my like sort of roadmap to like when I can realistically get this stuff finished. And I'm like, well, I have to finish my Blood Bowl team at some point. At the very least, my Necromantic team. It's like 16 models. If I can't get 16 models done, what am I even doing with myself? You
Right.
know, like so I got to finish that. At least my I have like 5 Blood Bowl teams at this point. I got to at least finish my necromantic one. They're my main. They're my main thing. Um,
Hmm.
I've got to finish like because I collected the whole Ossiarch Bone Reapers range. I can put
Such
2,000
cool
points
models.
on the table right now, but like, well, what about my 2 catapults that I don't use? What about like the extra Gothazar Harvester I've never fielded? Like I got to paint all that the extra Cavalos I bought because I wanted redundancy to make different lists. What about the
Uh-huh.
Mirkainen, who actually belongs in fucking lists right now, like
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, that
legit.
model too is so good.
Oh yeah, just bound and hound and hell, like so fucking cool. Um, and I'm like, okay, so I got to finish that range just so that like as the fancy hits me, I'm like, yeah, I feel like running extra Cavalos, and I can just go to my shelf and pluck and and that's what I in the future I see me doing that with all of Death, but to get there. I got to finish my Ossiarch Bone Reapers. I got to finish my Soulblight Gravelords. When the fuck am I going to finish Slanesh?
Yeah,
And so I
yeah,
had to.
it gets tough, trying to figure out how to make all that work. I mean, I even with my Iron Jaws, like I'm kind of locked into a list because of what I've got painted. It's like I only have this. I have maybe like 3 extra models that I could swap out that are heroes that'll let me adjust points, but I don't have that breadth of the model range or options, like you do. But it's like how do you find that time to do that because I've got other stuff I want to do.
Well,
Like
and
how do you do it all?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think either of us, ADHD or otherwise, have an answer for this because, like, I am. I've always said I'm an Omni nerd, an Omni gamer. Like, I like all like comic book collection here. Like,
Mhm.
this is even all of it. Most of it's in boxes in the fucking attic. Like, I've, you know, I'm a horror junkie, so like I do like horror movie marathons by myself or with Lulu. Like, that's
Mhm. All
actually,
your
like it's
TTRPG stuff you're doing and stuff too. Like
TTRPG stuff, which has usually always been in the background. Like I've just like I've had a weekly game the entire time I've had a podcast and longer, in fact. I just didn't like televise it. Um, and the one that I did televise when I was streaming prior to AOS RantCast, I pulled it all down off of YouTube and Twitter or off
oh,
of Twitch because I plan on making it into a fucking cartoon. Um, and
that's
so like
awesome.
I have to write that. Have you ever seen Record of Lotus War anime?
Uh, I remember in high school, my buddy let me borrow the first 2 tapes, and I think I watched the first one. It's been so long, but my dad hated all that stuff, so like I think I watched it once and returned it, and I don't know if I ever watched the rest of it. But
Oh,
I remember it being cool because it was
it was basically
swords
Dungeons
and
and
yeah,
Dragons. Yeah, it was like
yeah,
a fantasy
yeah.
RPG. Yeah, so like I wanted to kind of do like a modern take my D&D game and do like a modern, more diverse like version of it, incorporating my weird flights of like I have a if anyone's been watching my Vampire the Masquerade actual play, or if anyone's seen any of my one shots, I've got a Soulbound. If you're not like fuck other tabletop RPGs and stuff like that, Age of Sigmar, Soulbound. It's the RPG that is linked to AOS. I happen to have play tested it, so if you catch me at a tournament, I will sign your Soulbound book for you. My name's right in there in the credits. Um, it's you can watch that if you watch any of these games I ever run. They always have a fucking weird, like just a weirdness to them that David, like just David Lynchian bizarreness to how I run games, and like so like what if Record of Lotus Wars, was a little bit more modern and met David Lynch? Like that's the cartoon, that I want
That's
to write.
cool.
So it's like
That's cool.
and like I can't work on that fucking cartoon and paint a third army.
Yeah,
I can't.
yeah. You got
I
to pick something. Yeah.
and my family is sacrosanct. My time with my family is unshakable. It's unmovable. They're my
Yep.
anchor. They're why I'm here. So like I can't not go to movie night next week on Thursday with my family outdoors. I can't not go to the movie night tomorrow because my son is obsessed with Jurassic Park and Jurassic World and all that stuff. So we're going to we bought the tickets the instant they went, and we bought them directly at the center of the theater and like the with the special comfort loungers and everything. So we don't even
Oh
have to
yeah.
be physically near people. So I can't not do that tomorrow night and paint
Hmm.
my army instead. You know?
Well, it becomes this thing where like the memes that they've got where it's like you have to lose one of these, and it's like sushi, donuts, burgers and
Yeah.
bacon or whatever, and it's like you're having to pick between these
Bacon's
things.
overrated. Get at me at Mr. MR_MEPH.
I'll get at you right now.
I will jettison bacon off those lists. Donuts and bacon can both get the fuck off the list.
Donuts are all right, yeah. This is a
You,
whole
you,
other this is a whole
you
other thing.
stand bacon? All right, no. Go.
Yeah,
we were friends all the way up until now. Mirrors, kindred spirits. That was the moment. Now we are
right.
enemies. Horde and
Yeah.
alliance.
No.
Actually, I've been avoiding this question. I'll let you finish your thought here. But horde or alliance?
Do you think I stuck to one? Do you think I
Oh,
really did?
touche, touche.
It was mostly Horde,
It was mostly horde for
but
me
I
too.
started Alliance. Yeah.
Same. I started
Yeah.
Night Elves. I played a Night Elf warrior. Well, I beta
Hunter.
tested a Night Elf druid. And then I played a Night Elf warrior into live because all my friends were alliance. And
Kind of how
then
it goes.
as I made a undead warlock because fucking of course I did as an alt. When I wasn't playing with my friends, so I play with my friends on my alliance character, but my horde alt out leveled my friends. So I hit 60 on my fucking undead warlock first and started raiding and like fucking because my friends didn't play like they didn't hyperfixate and they didn't play at my pace. And so
Yeah.
and then like and that pattern like recycled itself as I would like make an alt to play with my friends, but then I would get pulled into raiding and I would end up on a different whatever that was my cycle all
Yeah.
the way through my progression rating. Sorry.
Yeah.
You were talking
That
about
was.
yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and Ulf Paint says there's too much have to in the world right now, not enough simmer your ass down, and that's what I'm trying to find. Like for myself is going okay. Uh, I can paint 5 armies at once, or I can just keep doing all this stuff, and just like get burnt out. That's like the last thing I want to do is get burnt out on hobby stuff. Like it's what I do for recreation. It's what I enjoy to do. Going to tournaments or thinking about tournaments or list building or that's all stuff I enjoy. And it's like if I don't balance that out with other things, you know, then it stops becoming something I enjoy because it's the only thing I do, and then I start to resent it, which I don't want to do. So um, it's learning to pick and choose those things. And like you said, like for me, it's like family is my number one, and then it's like a mix of like video games. Like like I'll sit down. It's like I'll sit down at 10:30 at night, and I'm like, I can finally play Apex Legends. It's okay. Like that's my little chunk of me time, and other stuff kind of gets mostly family, and then other stuff gets sprinkled in, and whatever. But
Yeah.
it's kind of picking what you want to use that time for to really enjoy, and so not oversaturating myself. I think saturation is a good term. Not oversaturating myself with too many projects at once, because then none of them become enjoyable. None of them are things that I want to work on.
The mountain who paints here, Ulf, he's a mental health professional, so reinforcement
Okay,
saturation
okay,
is
that's why all this stuff makes sense. I'm like, yeah.
yeah
This is
no
right.
that
This sounds good.
yeah that sounds perfect. Yeah, good stuff, Bruno. I have that with I have that with a couple things, and it really I think that this is an ailment of our age, quite frankly. Like I think millennials, we do this better than any generation prior or potentially
Post.
after the gig economy, the side hustle, and then sort of commoditizing our side hustles and our things that we enjoy and turn and we did it because the constraints of our environment and yada yada yada, but we still fucking did it, right? If I'm going to do Age of Sigmar, well, I better be painting on stream for Age of Sigmar so that like I can at least get a couple dollary dues and pay for my paints. Because if I don't, then like I'm wasting my time and I'm not. I should be doing something else that like either enriches my family or fixes my house, or like I have to have something that has some material impact on my life. Otherwise, I have wasted my time. This is a thing that like I struggle with kind of constantly. And then what ends up happening is I've monetized or commoditized or put a pressure on myself with everything I enjoy, and I don't enjoy them anymore.
Well,
And
that's not that I think I'm at this level, but it's like that's why I would never be a commission painter, because I would hate it because then everything for me becomes about, well, I gotta get this army painted and get it out so I can get money. And I'm not even painting my own stuff, which is already hard enough for me to do, but I
Right.
have to do it for somebody else on this deadline that they set, sure, and they're giving me money, sure, but this used to be something I wanted to do, and now it's something that I have to do. And Brent Nelson from Rerolling Ones, like we've had this conversation, like we talk about hobby stuff a lot. What what should I do with this hair on this fire slayer, or do you like this rust that I'm doing on this thing, or what should like we're always giving each other tips or giving suggestions and stuff, just texting back and forth. And he's like, man, you should do like a YouTube channel. And I'm like, okay, well, one, I don't, I'm not Ninja or Miniac or people from Artis Opus. I'm not, Oscar Lars. I'm not Andy Wardle. Like I don't have that. I'm just some ordinary dude sitting in my basement that I just play with stuff, and I'm like texting it to a friend that says, "Oh, this looks good," and I post it on Twitter and get 30 people liking it every now and again, and I'm like,
Damn, you get
I
30 likes? Shit.
it's rare, but it's happened. I'm on my second podcast. Come on, man.
Yeah, no,
So
I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. That's almost more than me in terms of
please.
different podcasts.
But it's like, uh, you know, just the thought alone of going, okay, I want to like I would really love to film a battle report. Like that's what I really got into when I started getting into the hobby, was that tied me to it, was watching battle reports and
Yeah.
seeing that, and I go, okay, I would love to do this, but I don't know how. I don't have the technology or the equipment or the time to edit or the time to learn all that on my own right now. And I didn't have the friends to do it, was the other thing. It's like, okay, there's ways you can do it. I could make my whatever. There's ways that you can do it as a solo content creator, but then the pressure of going, okay, well, how do I monetize this? That's what you. I mean, that's the ultimate end goal for I think a lot of people, anyways. Okay, well, you're pushed to partner. What does that do? It gets you a bigger audience and it monetizes it, but it puts
But then I
that
had to
pressure.
keep doing it. I didn't tell you how that story ends. You keep going with your story. I'll tell you how the
So
story ends.
it's the same thing as having one too many armies in my room over here, and now I have to finish painting what I've got in front of me so I can get to those other armies, because I told myself that's what I want to do. And it's like if I do a YouTube channel or if I start streaming on Twitch where I set a schedule, like streaming on Twitch just randomly, like, hey, I'm here. I get one person watching and it's myself on my second monitor, once every 5 weeks. Like that doesn't do anything other than like I feel cool because I did it. But like if you have an actual goal behind trying to make something out of it,
You have to
it
keep a
puts you
schedule.
in this, yeah, because if you don't, then what's the point? Because you're not going to see that monetary return.
Yep.
You're not going to see that build in um, growth in your channel. You're not going to have the algorithm you're fighting against, that type of thing. So it's like, wouldn't it be cool to do a painting YouTube or something like that, if I was better skilled, sure. But then that's competing with everything else. That's competing with the other army I want to work on, or the tournament that I want to go to next week, or my kid doing something fun that I want to be a part of.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, my extra time now goes into this thing that I love, but it's also stressful to me at the same time. And I'm not in a place where I could do that.
She got the
So
foosball table, everybody. Update on this the C plot going on throughout
did you
Rantcast
find
here.
out where? Did you find out where
I
it was?
assure you she didn't spend money, but she did take my work truck to go pick it up. And now she's shaking her booty at me. Nice.
Are you
Um,
saying that systemic financial pressure and vulnerability perverts the creative process?
yes. Yes,
I think
exactly.
so.
I wonder if anyone said that previously. If there were any like philosophers who were like particularly bearded and no. I won't go full lefty today. We've been having a good conversation without me having to meme.
Are
No,
you okay, bro?
it's no, it was the end of the story is I hit affiliate when it was hard to affiliate. To affiliate, like they reach. Of course, I'm not one of those people who's like, "Oh, it was my day was hard." No, I to as
But
a
they genuinely did
as
revamp
a marker
the
of how
requirements.
it was hard to hit that because you had to have 50 consistent viewers, you had to stream, I think it was 20 hours a week, and they switched to like 12 in a month. Like it was a fucking part-time job, and you had to have the
Yeah.
algorithm respond. So I hit an
Well,
affiliate.
with no, there was like almost nothing you got out of it other than hitting a landmark too.
You would get, yeah, you get your landmark, and you got like a subscriber button, which was like a huge deal, and you got 3 emoji slots and no option to get more. Now you can get more off of like now you can max out a little bit higher off of partner. I think you can get like 5 maybe. I don't know. I can't remember what it is. It was no, you got fucking one. I had 1 emoji slot when I hit first hit affiliate. Um, you got fucking one, and it was okay. And the my original emoji was Ramza or Ramza, depending on how you want to pronounce it, from Final Fantasy
Oh,
Tactics. Going okay. Um,
that game is so good.
oh god, it's still one of the best. Also aged like a fucking fine cognac. You go back and you
Yeah.
play that, it is still teaching you lessons pertinent to the day, which are kill God and reject your masters. Like, is fucking the most base. Like, also Ramza, who I thought was like naive and kind of stupid when I was a kid playing through, and I thought like the other characters were like cooler and stuff. He's actually the one I the most identify with these days because he's the
Like,
one
it's
who
me.
like hates the politics and bureaucracy the most of anybody. He doesn't finish becoming a knight, which I always thought was like when I was a kid. I'm like, why wouldn't he become a knight? Because swords are sweet, and I want like he should be cool. And then like as I'm an adult, I'm like, oh, because he rejected hierarchy. Bound and down and down and down. Like
Yeah.
he's just
If it means nothing to me, then why do it? Yeah.
yeah. He was so cool. Colin, I'm currently in a podcast. What's up? You're supposed to be in bed. Hug. Okay. 3 hours past bedtime, dude. I love you. Good night. Head to bed. No, so yeah, so that was the original. But I was making the push, and then you had 50 was the first marker, and then it was like 75 consistent, or maybe 100. I think it was 75 for the partner push, and then you had to apply, and then you get rejected the first time every time, and then so on and so forth. With the hours being closer to 30 a month, or what I can't remember quite the numbers. It was like 20 and 30 or something like that. And I was consistent. I was doing retro gaming at the time with a D&D show on Friday nights. So I had a Friday night D&D, and then I was streaming like 5 or 6 days a week. Um, and then I took the summer off from streaming. I streamed like only my D&D game on Fridays, and because I was working so much at like the job that physically actually pays the bills, because streaming sure as hell isn't, and just like like just through the ground. I came back to streaming like that fall. One of my original audience members from that original partner push came back.
Yeah.
One.
I mean, you watch people who have thousands and thousands of subscribers, and they're like, I think I'm going to take a day off today, guys. And it's like, with as big of following as they have, it's like you take time off, and people just go away. They put their money somewhere else. It's
it
tough.
it 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 it's their saturation. If you're not streaming retro games, somebody else is. Like if you're not,
Hmm.
so I did League of Legends. Was like my disposable go to game, like League of Legends Sunday, or what.
Yeah.
Like I had some disposable game I would always go to when I would hit a wall with like the retro gaming or whatever, and my retro gaming audience would either stick around because they like talking to me, or they would peace out. And then I had kind of predominantly settled into like a retro game space where I was playing a bunch of old RPGs. I was going through like the old Final Fantasies. I did Legend of the Dragoon, Shadow Hearts, and Shadow Hearts Covenant. By the way, Midway RPGs. By the way, at the time, the folks who were making fucking Mortal Kombat. Yeah, that's right. That Midway had a fucking stellar RPG that nobody bought and nobody played on the PS2. It was
What
good
was that
enough to
called? Shadow Hearts?
yeah, it was good enough to get 2 sequels. The third sequel kinda sucks. The second sequel was too different from the first to
Oh,
hold the interest from all but exactly me in the fandom and the people like me in the fandom.
okay.
And then by the time the third one rolled around, we were just like table flip. But the first Shadow Hearts, you play as a Harmonixer, and his whole thing is like every monster he ever kills becomes part of his fucking soul, and he can transform into them. It is
Wow.
so hardcore. It was just you have a your it's a real it's a it blends perfectly with like I still love turn-based RPGs. Call me a curmudgeon. But it still has like an action element to it in what's called the Judgment Ring. And so like you get to like sip your Coke or Mountain Dew and eat some Cheetos and just enjoy a proper turn-based RPG. And then when you choose attack, a ring comes up and you have to like and like you have to hit
Yeah,
like the button a couple
like a
times.
combo or whatever.
Yeah, like Legend of the Dragoon did this really well too because like your transform sequences. Legend of Legia did it well too with the combos.
Super
Um,
Mario RPG, man. You have the time-based
yep,
attacks, get the extra,
Yep,
yeah.
yep. Limit
Mhm.
breaks in Final Fantasy VI had a time component to a couple of them. Like, yeah, so like just enough. Like, I that's the sweet spot for me. And yeah, it's clearly like the sign of my age. That was the golden age of RPGs for me. Um,
No, it was though.
it truly was. The caliber of RPGs and the consistency of RPGs released that are that great has never hit that same level since.
Mhm.
Just it simply hasn't since that like sort of mid to late 90s and early 2000s period. Like we haven't seen that. It was a bottleneck of great RPGs. You can still go back to that era and find RPGs you haven't played that were great. In the
Mhm.
last 30 years, eh, sorry, in the last 11 years, the number of RPGs that you missed and were secretly great, maybe a handful, you know?
Yeah.
Like a couple obscure indie titles, but like I'm sure there's a lot of great indie titles, but certainly not anything even remotely close to a main release, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like you didn't play Undertale, you're like the one person who hasn't, and like maybe you didn't play Lost King or Lost Odyssey for the Xbox 360. I think those are like the only two in that post Golden Age. Sorry. Yeah, so I was doing that and I didn't and it all just it flatlined. And then like a year or two later, I started doing like Age of Sigmar, AOS RantCast, and I became comfortable. Um, I had the reason RantCast exists the way it does right now. Some inside baseball, everybody. Some how the sausage is made. Um, some folks might, wonder why I so aggressively reject doing anything that remotely appeases the algorithm. Why I don't do battle tome reviews. Why I don't, just recycle through all of my friends who are gigantic content creators to like constantly boost my signal and stuff like that. Why I talk to like quite frankly more awesome guests and have more personal conversations with someone like you, Jason. It's because I'm not letting the algorithm dictate my life anymore the way it did. I did that. I did that for a long time. I chased the numbers and the validation and the growth, and it fucking sucked to put in all that work and then
Mhm.
just have nothing. Have nothing
What?
to show for it apart from a few
Yeah.
anecdotes, and to feel like I'm some grumpy old man who who resents the platform these days. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's like, the second you take your foot off the gas, there it goes. That's just the way things are these days. It's like, you're relevant until you stop being so, and then
Yeah.
whatever.
It,
So,
it I have a appreciation and a sympathy for content creation now, and
mhm.
any content creator, whether they make political content, battle reports, whatever. I have a well of empathy for anyone who does this, full time. Um, like it's hard. It is hard to go live 5 days a week, regardless of what you're doing. Like it kind of sucks. I understand. We shit on people for content farming. We shit on people for doing react videos and unboxings, but I fucking get it. I shit
Yeah.
on people for doing that stuff, quite frankly. Like, but I get it.
Yeah.
When I'm done with the jokes, when I'm done with the, my curmudgeon persona, the AOS villain, that I am, the super villain. Like I get it. It's just I can't do that anymore.
But
Personally.
I think that's why it kind of makes it more satisfying in a way, as not a content creator, but as a content consumer, let's say, like, to find people that do it a way that really resonates with you. So like, you've got your little niche, the way that you run your show and the way that the rantcast goes, and like seeing someone like Haywo, like the way that his content is created, and like the memes and his jokes, and just it's
He's the
just
best
so
there is at
much,
what he does. Like there's just
it's so
there's
much different than everybody else.
yeah.
And to see like, so my favorite, probably my favorite battle reports to watch right now, like consistently, are Season of War. I don't think that there's a better battle report channel out there that does things the way that they do. And if you watch their stuff from a year ago, they're a lot different.
Hmm.
And adding in the narrations and bringing in different people and the presentation, and like, I mean, Jordan's pretty open. He'll talk about how the desire to um make it a full-time thing is a real thing. It's a motivator for them. And but it's like they're constantly, like, they're doing it the right way, where, I mean, if you look at, I'm not really into this type of stuff anymore, but with 40K, um tabletop tactics, you watch them from several years ago, and it feels a lot like that to me, where like they built themselves into this brand that it's like everything they do is such good quality, and you can tell that they care about
Hmm.
what they're working on. It's like you get that from some of the people in the community, and you see how they do. It's just they have that drive to make something of it, but also keep it fresh, which I think kind of plays back into itself. It's like if they're constantly getting better and better and better,
Hmm.
and you can tell that they don't hate what they're doing, it's like I want to watch it. How do you do two excellent battle reports every week? Like,
Yeah.
it's wild. Like, some people just have it, and I think that's really great. So
Well, there's the paradox of passion is on one side of things where your passion can be self-exploitative, it can lead to burnout, it can do all these horrible things, and then there's a side where it is sort of like where you get the dividends, you get the return on it, and you're able to keep reinforcing it. And like I said, the paradox of passion, where like it's this double-edged sword. you know um I decided I still look at the algorithms, but for a long time I was looking at my numbers going down and feeling like I was making the best shows I've made in my career. I have a background in communication, English lit. I had I had one class in broadcast. I know what I'm doing. No, I do have the ADHD power where I can hyperfixate on teaching myself video editing right now. It's nothing stellar. It's certainly not to the level of Haywo or any of these like professional editors. But for some person who still takes physical notes in a book for his RPGs that he runs, for somebody who still keeps post-it notes of his fucking scheduled for guests for 2 months, um, even though I have a phone and a wristwatch I can talk to fucking keep a schedule, um, to be able to like teach myself video editing is kind of a big deal. And so I've been doing that lately. Folks have noticed like if they've watched these like last 5 or 6 episodes of Rantcast, they've seen like there's been a title sequence and stuff in there. It's nothing fancy, but it takes time to do. It takes time away from the aforementioned family. It takes time away from painting an army. It takes time away from all that stuff. You know, the one man show stuff it can be rough.
yeah,
But you
you
can
have to do
tell,
all of it.
yeah, and you can tell like some folks have the it factor, or the right place, the right time thing, and that they do see the returns. And you know, it's I don't have resentment for that. Like I still like Haywo is the best there is at what he does. My grudge with Haywo, yeah, folks should know he's my boy IRL too, right? Like they know we went to college together. I think by now that's like he's a lot more guarded with personal information than I am, but ADHD, I can't fucking keep my mouth shut if I want to. Um, he he doesn't make enough content is my gripe. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
every time you release a video, it's like a fucking slam dunk. But like folks wait 6 months between videos. Like, dude,
Right.
if you could just do one video a month, man, like you would skyrocket. You would like he's doing this full time as well, so he's got to do a certain he's got to do his Monday show, and he's got to do the live streaming rope a
Mhm.
dope. He's got to go to the content mines, right? Like I don't, like I don't even check to see if a new. I didn't even check to see. You're like, oh, what topic? What's our topic tonight? And I'm like, I'm asking you questions about you. I didn't even check to see what fucking battle tomes came out or anything like that. I'm like,
What
gives a
what
shit.
makes me laugh is it's like, uh because I know how your brain works a little bit. like I wasn't surprised. Like I wasn't even frustrated, you know? It's just like um I saw it on my calendar. I knew it was coming up and stuff. I was like, I should probably just ask him. Like we haven't talked. It was like May 7th. It was over a month ago,
Hmm.
you know, and I mean, I didn't even have a second kid at that point. You know, like I've been busy, but it's like I've been thinking about it and it's like just I mean, yesterday was when it clicked back in. I was like, you know what? This is my second podcast. I'm a
I'm a
seasoned
veteran.
vet
Yeah,
by now. Uh,
I'm an internet celebrity at this point.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Where's the show notes? Where's the and I was like, I'll just ask him. I was like, if I haven't thought about it, he probably hasn't either, other than he knows it's coming up. So that's fine, you know. I was like, like I can talk about anything forever. Like we've been here for what, a little over 2 hours, and like if you all of a sudden wanted to start talking football, we'd be here for 2 more hours. And if you like, it's just like I could just talk. I just keep talking. Um, but it's like I should reach out and just ask him, and then we'll just play it by ear. We'll just see how it goes, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I
sometimes you need prep and sometimes you don't.
there's a method to my madness. Like I had an idea that we were gonna focus on the hobby because I had kind of pegged you as a more of a hobbyist. I'm like, and part of it's I can't say laziness, because like that's that internalized bias or
Yeah,
whatever against
dialogue. Yeah,
myself. But yeah, it's not laziness. It's just my brain is different. Like I need to percolate on an idea. I need to get a spark, right? Like, and then I get the spark, and then like when the spark's in my head, then I'm like, okay, and I can't like trigger it on purpose. I gotta like when the spark happens, and I'm like, okay, now I got an idea, and then I get like,
yeah, it's clear now.
and
Yep.
then I get charged up, and then now I have to, and then I got to do this, and I got to go through this, and Rantcast is kind of like that, where like every Rantcast is like sometimes it's I have a guest in mind, and I just want to talk to the guest, which is what tonight was. Like I just wanted to
Mhm.
talk to you. And sometimes I have a topic in mind, and I have the perfect guest for the topic, but like
Yeah,
that spark's got to be there, or like I'm not gonna like talk for 2 hours about it. I'm not gonna
sure. Yeah,
you
you just
know
kind of let it be organic. Yeah.
Yeah, and so to go through a conversation, kind of organically to get to know somebody, to coax through and to go through this sort of thing is what I enjoy doing. Maybe I'm a little arrogant in this sense where I think I'm the best live interviewer in this game right now. Um, if anyone thinks they're better, get at me. We can have a
It's your
interview
God
off or
mode.
something like that. I don't know how we would a dance off. I don't know what the fuck you do to prove you're a better interviewer than me. Um,
Yeah.
if you go for longevity, I've got you all beat, motherfuckers, because I have a 27-hour podcast and
Okay.
um,
It's
so
a long
like
time.
I put so I do get complacent a little bit where I'm like, well, I know I can talk about anything forever, and then so sometimes I'll like let my guard down. Um, I'll go back on an episode and I'll be like, fuck that, I wasn't as prepared for that. I let these opportunities go by. I didn't ask this question I wanted to ask. I mean, that's
Mhm.
show notes for me are just prompts to remember things.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's too much about
Digital post-it notes.
pretty much. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
notebook, notebook and post-it notes. Yeah, just bring up chess clock and reset the whole thing. 2 more hours on
Yeah.
chess clock. No, I don't know. Like I said, I knew. Even then, I had this idea that we would talk about the hobby and we would go through like your journey with like the armies you were building, and because I'd take it, I'd skim through your like Twitter feed. I think it was yesterday. And I took a
Mhm.
couple notes about the armies that I saw you were playing. Missed Iron Jaws, by the way. Like I was like Seraphon, Nighthaunt.
Yeah, that was back in January.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't scroll far enough. Yeah, so it was like like okay, we'll talk about like your hobby journey, and we'll talk about like ADHD a little bit. And when you said at the beginning of the episode like hobby ADHD, well, this we were off air then. You said hobby ADHD, ha ha ha, jokes on me. I'm like, boom, that was the spark moment, where I'm like, this is what we're gonna.
Yeah.
But I thought it would be anchored more to the hobby side, and we just went explicit talking about ADHD, and I didn't know I wanted to talk about that until we were, you know.
There you go.
So I don't know. Um, so remember how I told you, final soapbox?
Yep.
It's an energy
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
You can feel it. You can feel when you've exhausted the time. It's just it's you look instincts. That's why I'm better than you, you other interviewers out there. Instincts. You feel. So anything you wanted to circle back to? Anything you wanted to talk about real quick before we move on to the final soapbox? Anything we like glossed over? Any anything on the topics I said we would talk about and then we never did, like the tournament you ran.
I mean, I could talk about that for a long time, but no,
The Pacific Northwest scene, like that seems to be a scene we don't talk about a ton, but
it's kind of an interesting region. Like, there's a bunch of guys in Seattle, and then there's people in Boise. But like I said, I've only been into tournaments for maybe a little over a year, and so like so I'm in Spokane, so Eastern Washington, and most of our tournaments have been 1 days for quite a while. In fact, I've never played in a 2-day tournament over here. The only one I've gone to is LVO. So it's a little bit more laid back, and we have people kind of travel from different places. I know Dayton's come down from Canada for those in the past, and he came down a couple weeks ago for the 2-day event that I helped put on. But it was just like, I'd actually intended to play in our recent 2-day tournament, and I was super pumped because I was like, man, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. But with us having my wife was super pregnant, and I was like, any day, like we could have a kid any day. I was like, I'd feel so bad if I had to just drop out and go have a baby. I mean, I wouldn't because I'm having a kid, but
there's a degrees of magnitude and importance there. I think are like, if anyone's like, this motherfucker left our AOS game and gave me the win to go have a fucking baby, and they're just like, they're actually seething about that. Like, yo, priorities, dog. Priorities.
Change your mindset there, pal.
Yeah.
But it became this thing where now I've never ran a tournament, but just knowing that it was coming up, and I really wanted and still do want to kind of build up like our local community, and like there's a pretty strong 40K community, but AOS is kind of hit and miss depending on. And so I was like, well, I know that the guy that owns the shop doesn't really, like, they're not as familiar with AOS, and
so they need like an ambassador, basically, right? Like,
yeah. So, and we'd kind of talked about this in the past, where like we bounced ideas off each other and stuff. And I reached out to him, and I was like, I know you kind of offered jokingly, like, hey, if you ever want to run a tournament or whatever. I was like, but what if I help plan? So I wrote a packet. I actually put a survey out on Twitter and on Facebook and just asked some questions about tournaments and what people like to see and what they want to do in a tournament and what type of scoring systems they like and what types of battle plans, just so I could gain some insight. And so I took that, combined it with kind of what I would want to see at an event. And then one of those being Tyler Emerson. He wrote the War Coda, if you're familiar with that. And I loved the concept, and I was like, I'm running the tournament, so I'm going to do it. And so I pulled a battle plan from his War Coda, tried it out with one of my buddies, and I really liked the way that it played. And so I put it in the tournament packet, and we ran an event. Like it was a little bit different. Like I would have had to pack it out a little bit sooner if I was doing it all by myself and stuff, because it was at the owner's shop. And so I kind of was running stuff through him to kind of facilitate and post this out and stuff. But it was like, we had 32 people show up, and there were a couple drops, but like,
you get to round to 30. That is a perfect.
And it was great. It was 2 days, and we had some people from Seattle show up, the Corsairs. We had Dayton came from Canada. We had some people from Boise, and it was just like, this is what I wanted. And I wanted it to be something that people might go, okay, like I had a really good time. I would come back and play in Spokane again. I would come back to a tournament here. So originally there was supposed to be a big tournament in July, and that got canceled because of some other stuff. But I was hoping to kind of build off of that and go, okay, well, if you had fun now, like I want to make it even better for July. I'd rather play in July, but it's like if they need help to do some of that stuff, like I'm happy to help.
Oh no, you're forever GMing yourself now. Forever TOing. We don't talk enough about the forever TO pandemic in the AOS scene. No.
I don't want that to be the case. But it was like, but I had a good time, and it was I'd rather step out of playing and help plan something that people will have fun and want to be a part of again, then just have it become something that's like, we rolled random battle plans. We played a 2-day tournament. Yay, thanks for showing up, which those can be fun too. But I like a plan. Like I like to know what's going on. And so it
The
was,
stakes shift and the expectations shift. I think that
mhm,
that's why like a 1 or 2 day planned event, like they, especially the 2 day, there's like a gravity to them. It becomes a
mhm,
thing to
yeah,
put on your calendar. It
yep,
becomes like a reason to travel, even if it's
yep,
30 people. I mean, a 30 50 person tournament, that at that level with only 5 rounds, the Swiss pairings actually like work out statistically, to show like distill out a more proper winner. And once you get above that, I mean, I think we need to have a focus on those like 30 50 person events, even 1 dayers, as a community. I told you up front, I will tell everybody, it is the line I hold. The community is the most important aspect to me in this game. Games Workshop release the models. We'll take care of the community. Like
yeah,
release good rules and good models, and fuck off. Let us run our events, type thing. Like,
yep, yep,
I appreciate you codifying the players, you know, code or whatever in the rules to tell people not to be a
gotcha.
dick, but so I can point at the sign sometimes. I like being able to point at the sign, but when it gets right down to it, if I don't like something that the company's doing, I'm gonna change it. And I'm gonna do it my way. Like you
Right.
mentioned the coda. Tyler, don't call me the godfather of AOS content. Emerson, um, he's a great dude, and
Yeah. Hmm.
it's fun that he's become the new forever host of Warhammer
Yeah, that's
Weekly.
super cool.
The
Yeah.
the world was lacking when Scrubby and Wells stopped existing, so I'm glad that
Yeah.
he's
Well,
yeah. Go ahead.
I think it's cool that they, um, you know, that became something that other people are taking advantage of. It's hosted on, was it AOS Shorts? I think he has it on
Mhm.
the website there and stuff. And then people are using those things in tournaments, and it's like, okay, like GW, you wouldn't see it at the Seattle Open or this or that, but it's like if people want to run them, they're going to run them. And I think that's one of the pieces of advice when I was kind of getting ready for the tournament that I had just seen someone post somewhere is like, you're never going to make everyone happy,
Right.
do your best, whatever. But it's like, put on the kind of event that you would want to go to. And that way you can kind of, you get that passion behind it where it's like, I feel really good about this. Like, maybe we
Right.
can change up how we score secondaries, or maybe we can change how we do this or do that. But it's like the general premise behind the thing is one that I would want to go to and be happy to play in. And I'm even happier to have put it on and had good feedback from it. So that
Yeah.
was kind of
I mean that's. I mean, there's a great way to like kind of lasso that and tie that into to some of the other topics we brought up, but like you essentially like kind of using yourself as a fulcrum, right? Like you can take a little out of column A, a little out of column B as need be to like adjust for your audience. But if it's something that you're not personally happy with, it's going to exhaust you doing it. It's not going to have that personal touch when you're releasing it. Like I personally, the reason I like tournaments as much as I do is I love seeing that sort of cross pollination. I love meeting people in different environments. I love what different tournaments bring out in the same people. Even if you meet me at if we're playing in an Adepticon tournament versus like Walpaka, you're getting a slightly different version of Mephisto. Like the stakes in Walpaka are a beer hoist at the end to determine who the winner is versus you know glory forever at Adepticon, right? Like I enjoy that diversity. It's one of my favorite parts of this. Maybe sometime I'll have you on with Tyler and we'll talk about like community building and like really really try to talk about Age of Sigmar explicitly. On
that'd be cool. Yeah. Yeah.
but no, I'm happy you did that. I think with the digital age, and I truly love technology for a lot of the
The
broad
Kit from
stroke.
Napoleon Dynamite right now.
Am
Yes,
I?
I love technology.
No, I love technology. No, I no, I like I'm talking to I'm in the middle of America and I'm talking to somebody on like the far side of
West Coast.
America. Yeah, I have guests on from Australia. I frequently have DM exchanges with someone upside down.
Yeah.
One of my most constantly talk to humans in this community. Clint, miss you, brother. Um, and yeah, it's just that stuff's great. The ability to hold each other accountable on Twitter and to get that external validation when I get, well, I get like 10 likes, but when you get 30 likes on your minis, you know,
So it's only because like one person retweets me and it hits the right spot.
yeah, no, it's good. I'm no, my I have a tweet that's like still fucking doing numbers right now, because I outed some phishing person. I don't know what it was. I have my speculation, but that's neither here nor there. That thing's like the most successful tweet I've ever had. And I'm like, really? It's not my charity stream. You know, could people
It's this thing.
could people retweet the charity stream thing? That'll
Yeah, give me that.
the third year I'm doing this thing. Raised over $20,000 for charity. Like, maybe no. Oh, okay. Like,
Dude, it's wild what latches on. So just a little whoop.
yeah, no, we're good.
So at LVO, uh, they have a like a vendor hall, right? And GW had a booth in the vendor hall, and I'm kind of like a ask for forgiveness, not ask for permission. And so I kind of just like wandered back in. They weren't even open yet. And I'm just like walking around and I end up back over there and I see one of the guys in the booth. I'm like, are you guys open? He's like, yeah, why not? Sure. And I was like, okay, so what do I get? Like, what should I, what do you guys have that's cool at a convention? And he showed me. So now it's all over the place, but the event specific model for the Cruel Boys was the new Swamp Call a Shaman. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Refresh my memory.
Hold on.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna have rip people who are only on Spotify or iTunes or whatever. But
Okay, yeah. So I'll show you the picture here. It's this. Do you recognize this? Okay, so this box I took a picture of because it was before the store had opened, right? So not even at opening hours. And the guy told me, he goes, this model came out today. So I'm in there early, the day the model releases, before anyone's even buying it. I might be the first person in the world outside of like working for GW
yeah,
that
people with
that
NDAs,
owned
right?
that owned this model. And so I tweeted a picture of it and it like went nuts. Like it went like I'm having my friends text me. They're like, that picture that you tweet, and you could tell because my thumbnail had like a paint streak on it because I was painting like the day before. And it's like you can see my thumbnail in the picture. And he's like, that just showed up on like all of the Facebook group chats and it's all over Discord and it's all like this one picture I took and it got like, I don't know, an astronomical amount of likes. But then like everything I tweeted that weekend like blew up. Like it was like, I made it.
This is the
I,
guy.
I made,
Yeah,
I was like, yeah. So it's like, this one thing I tweet that people are like, oh, I mean, it's a cool concept, right? A model that people hadn't even been announced yet,
yeah.
but they're selling it, and so it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, that's the that's where I will buy into the kind of like do what you do, take care of yourself, and if you keep a mind to Twitter to content, it'll land with somebody, right? You can't necessarily control like the algorithm, the robots, what's going to latch on to the zeitgeist. There are things you can do to hedge your bets, but just do you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, final soapbox. This is the moment.
Yeah. So I was trying to think about what I would talk about. I'll take it back to Age of Sigmar for a minute here. So
Final soapbox about AOS. All right, let's go.
So so it's LVO season for purchasing tickets. I found out today that the event is officially sold out for Age of Sigmar, which I think is super cool. And I was really jealous because I'm not going to be able to go because I'm buying tickets right now for an event 6 months from now. And last year it worked out, but this year it's like it's not the right time for me.
I mean, new Babby kind of what the no, it makes sense. Yeah, I got you.
So for me it wasn't the right time, but it's still like I'm getting that FOMO because now for the next 6 months I get to watch everyone else talk about how excited they are for LVO and talk about how, and it's like, I was there last year. I was there 6 months ago. It wasn't even last year. I was there 6 months ago. Like, I know what this is going to be like. And so I keep finding myself like trying not to like let that not make me bitter, but it's like I have to wait a whole other year
It
to go
happens.
to LVO again. And I think one of the things that I found, I just want to talk about one of the things I found really cool. I've tweeted about it a little bit, but I haven't found out what it means for me just yet. But is I really found the aspect of people being in a Warhammer club or a Warhammer team. Um, it's just a really cool. Uh, I don't know.
Feature.
I think it's yeah. I because one of the things I noticed is like it gives you this built-in social circle. So it's like, like tough crowd, right? Like they're pretty vocal. They're pretty out there. Like they're all over Twitter. They're always,
Yeah, yeah. Sons of
call
Slambo,
out
I think, are
videos and
similar vein. Like,
yep.
when there's a Slambo in the room, they shout their name. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yep. So it's like you see that and like watch them just like enjoying that community. And it's like I know a couple of those guys, talk to them and stuff like that. But what it did was it made me come back and go, okay, well, I'm not on a Warhammer team. I'm not knocking out LVOs. I'm not constantly cleaning up 2-day events all over the place. Like I don't have that pedigree, but I'm like, I really want to do something like that. Like Sons of Mediocrity or something. It's just like we go 2-3 or 3-2 at 5 game events or whatever. I don't know. But it's just like I think if I don't even know where I'm going with this other than I think that like the people who have found that type of a community within the community of Age of
yeah,
Sigmar,
yeah.
I think have a really cool sweet spot where they get that. It's like you're on a sports team, you get to celebrate with your team, or you get to, you've got your buddies who are at these events and you run into how'd this go, how'd that go, but it's like I guess the sense of pride that you get from being in this little
Yeah,
organization and stuff, but
there's a residual heat, I like to call it.
mhm.
Like the FOMO's probably a little less if your team's there, because you get that direct, like, you get the direct anecdote like you would from a friend, but also there's something on the line. Like, why am I rocking a sports ball hat right now? Because when the Milwaukee Bucks won the championship last year, carried in the hugest backpack known to mankind by Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like I, who did not play basketball, who has zero like effect on the game whatsoever, from this very secret labs chair, watching the game and screaming my vocal cords off as he dropped a fitty piece out of nowhere,
Yeah,
hitting all but two fucking free throws when he couldn't sink them the whole playoff series,
found it at the right moment, man.
is because that residual heat, that,
Yep.
like there's something to be that sense of tribe, community, team, that is very human.
Mhm.
I love the gamesmanship of, like, teams and clubs in AOS, like soccer clubs and
Yeah,
Euro football or whatever. And it's one of my favorite things. I love the smack talk. I love the making Twitter promos and shouting out and or like roasting a friend. I love,
I got the belt. Yeah, just
yeah,
all that stuff you see. It's like it's not my club, but it's like it's really cool to see. Just they went through Worlds recently, and watching them. People putting together these teams and practicing and doing all this stuff. It's like, okay, I don't know how to build a team. I've only got like the couple buddies that I'm like good friends with, like locally. It's like, you know, I want to put a team together, whatever. But it's like, what does that mean? I don't know. It's like to have a shirt that has a name on it, and now we're a
it
club. And
matters. It matters though. Like, as someone who doesn't advertise that he sells merch. The only reason I have a merch store is so I can put my own fucking name on shirts that I personally wear, like a fucking weirdo.
yeah.
No, it matters. I decided to stay out of um like the team side of things, even though it's one of the things I absolutely adore the most
Hmm.
about this community, because I wanted to. be an ambassador. I thought that if I were part of a club, then that would like bring extra politics into it that I
Like
didn't.
exclusionary, where you're trying not to be in other
Yeah,
ways.
like I worried about that stuff, and like every time I see my homies rocking a tough crowd, or like even the E&D Wargaming Club shirts that came out for a couple of my friends who are all in the same club, and
Mhm.
I'm drinking from my Guys from Milwaukee cup. This is my water cup. It's either this or a Superman cup for water. Um, so like fucking Guys from Milwaukee merch, like they've got a club. I've got a Basement Wargamer shirt from the Bod crew, the Bod Father, the Basement of Death. Which is a club from Milwaukee as well, and I'm not part of it. We've got the Wisco Kings, and like every time I see this stuff, I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. And I see Ulf asks like the logical question: anyone in chat gang who wants to start an AOS team/club, hit me up. We can have fun being terrible at the game together! Exclamation point. See, I immediately as you were talking about that, a quote jumped into my head from my friend Nick. He's been on the show a few times. Um, he said that Age of Sigmar is like an island of misfit toys, and I'm like, that's the club, the
Yeah.
Misfits,
Nice.
legally distinct from the
A
band the
band, yeah.
Misfits because I'm not
Like
getting sued
I
by
changed
Rollins.
the
Yeah,
icon a little bit,
yeah, we'll change the
whatever.
icons and the spelling a little bit and stuff like that, or maybe misspell Misfits with like ph like Mephisto.
There you go. The Mefs fits.
Yeah, the Mefs fits. Like we'll start a club or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. So, but
Ooh, with
that
the
was.
Y. Yeah, let's go back to the 90s.
Oh, there you go. With add a Z at the end, then you're like early 2000. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
No.
yeah, like start. Maybe it's
But yeah,
time Mephisto starts a club for all the misfits out there that
sure.
need to celebrate. Our slogan will be "Remember Fun."
There you go. Yeah, beer and pretzels.
Yeah, beer and pretzels. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Like,
So, well,
uh,
there you go. That was my random soapbox. It's just an aspect of the community that I find I don't know where I land with it yet exactly. Like, do I start a club or whatever? But it's like I think it's a really cool concept. So
I'm
there you
gonna
go.
yeah, I'm gonna appropriate some advice I got from Detroit Warhammer, actually, one of our more renowned clubs in the area in the Midwest. I think we had one member, two members on AOS team for
Hmm.
the teams this year from that club. Um, all it takes to start a club is one friend. Start
It's
a club,
true.
dude. Like you
Yeah.
sounds like you got a couple friends even. Like this man who is his lavishing in riches of camaraderie.
Right. Two
Just
podcasts, two friends. I've made it.
yeah, there you go. Get your friends together. Come up with a doodle a logo. Print off a T-shirt at like Vistaprint or something like that. Boom, you're a club now. Like
Yeah.
start talking smack to Tough Crowd or Tristan or something like that, or Dayton, because
I
Dayton's
don't
such
got
a
the
great sport.
chops.
Yeah, just start busting Jack and Brent's chops or something like that. Get a rivalry going. Go to pick an event, even if it's a one dayer to show up to, and I mean that's what you do. Have
Yeah.
a
There
blast
you
with it.
go.
Yeah,
I
cut
like
a
it.
promo, um, walk up music, do the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
All right. Anything you want to shout out real quick before you head out? If anyone wants to find you on Twitter, get you more than 30 likes on your Night Hunt journey, so you finish it before
Oh yeah.
Sylvanath come out.
I don't even know my Twitter handle off the top of my head. I know what it is. Okay. It's at I didn't know where it's at it's Nixon, ITSNIXON, but then there's an underscore at the end.
I
So I didn't know where the underscore was. It's at the end. Yeah.
feel like
So
there's a different podcast in there for Wyatt's Nixon.
the short answer is I used to collect a lot of watches and it was my Xbox handle. And then I changed it, but then I changed it back, but my old handle was gone. And so I was like, my name, hey guys, it's Nixon. They're like, who is this again? It's Nixon. It's like, so that's, there you go.
Fantastic. No,
Yeah.
perfect. All right, man. Thank you so much for being on tonight. I had a
Yeah.
absolute blast. It was a fantastic conversation.
Yeah, me too, for sure.
Chat gang. Yeah. Ulf Paint's already loving the final soapbox. He's saying, good soapbox, worthy topic. Thank you. Perfect. See, if Chat Gang's on board, I'm on board. And speaking of Chat Gang, you know it. You're the show within the show. The reason I do this thing. Remember, drink your milk, pay your taxes, take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll catch you next time. Good night, everybody. Night, Jason.
Easy.